Chapter 112. Through the gap in the wardrobe, Noah saw Ryutaru sitting outside, lazily drinking water. Ryutaru was really not a hard-working person. Therefore, after hiding in the wardrobe, Noah kept praying that Ryutaru would quickly leave this place so that he could resolve this situation that could cause his heart to explode at any time. However, Noah had a hunch that it wouldn't be easy to get Ryutaru to leave this place when he saw the way he was sipping his tea the whole time. Noah could not help but curse his fate, and his body could not help but tense up. Perhaps it was because it was too hot or because the air in the wardrobe was too thin. The other person hiding in the wardrobe began to pant. Noah's heartbeat had completely entered an uncontrollable state. It was beating at an extremely high frequency, and he could not help but look down slightly. He did not know if it was fortunate or unfortunate. Although it was a wardrobe, it was obvious that Mugging did not intend to use it to organize clothes. As a result, it was empty inside. Otherwise, the two adults would not have been able to hide in it. However, with Mugging's financial situation, it was obviously impossible for him to spend a lot of money to buy a good wardrobe. Therefore, the wardrobe was not very spacious. Therefore, Noah, who was hiding in the wardrobe, was no longer separated from Mugging. Under the pressure of the limited space, Mugging's body was completely squeezed onto Noah's body, causing Noah to be extremely excited. As they were dragged in by Mugging in a hurry, the two of them did not even have time to adjust their postures before they were squeezed together. In addition to the limited space, not to mention leaving a small gap, they could feel each other's body temperature and touch even when they were not moving. This was also the reason why Noah's heartbeat was completely out of control. It was only now that Noah and Mugging realized the state of the two of them. Mugging's entire body was pressed against Noah's, and his hands were also raised high above his head, pressing against the top of the wardrobe. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them were completely pressed together, Noah only needed to move his gaze down slightly to see Mugging's entire body. But Noah's condition was not good. His left hand was on the other side of the wardrobe, but because of Mugging's presence, it was pressed down tightly, and it was pressed down by Mugging's buttocks. His right hand was originally blocking in front of him, but because of Mugging's pressure, it had now sunk into an indescribable softness. If he wasn't mistaken, it should be the feeling of Mugging's full breasts. In other words, not only was Mugging's entire body squeezed into Noah's arms, but Noah's hand was still holding onto Mugging's softness, and his other hand was pressed down by Mugging's buttocks. If the wardrobe was removed, it would look like Noah was touching Mugging all over. Realizing this, Noah not only tightened his body, but his mind was also in a mess. With a swoosh, sweat flowed down his face. Mugging's pretty face was flushed red. Compared to Noah, who was sweating, almost every inch of Mugging's delicate body was sweating. Realizing that she was being touched by Noah, her skin became a little red, and she spoke in a shy and angry voice. Hand. Reminded by Mugging, Noah also quivered and hurriedly tried to pull his hand away. As a result, in such a limited space, not only was Noah's hand unable to pull out smoothly, but it was also very obvious that he was sinking deeper into the softness. At the same time that unforgettable softness came from his hands, Mugging's soft moans also entered Noah's ears. Don't move. Without even a second of pause, Noah instantly stopped his twitching hand, and more sweat flowed down his forehead. Mugging's voice was completely like crying. Hand. Your hand. Noah wanted to cry but had no tears. Move? But not only would he not be able to pull out his hand, he would also take the opportunity to rub Mugging's full breasts and buttocks. Not moving? Then he had to keep it like this, holding Mugging's two extremely soft and full parts. This was not the right thing to do, but it was also not the right thing to do. No matter what, it was not a good situation. What should he do? At that moment, Noah could only speak in a hoarse voice, as if he was angry out of humiliation. Why did you pull me in? That's because my body suddenly moved on its own. I don't want to do this. Mugging twisted her body slightly as if in discomfort, so embarrassed that she was about to faint. In short, you have to think of a way to get your hand. Mugging did not understand at all. Her subconscious twisting of her body not only did not make the situation better, but also brought more stimulation to Noah. Noah could only raise his head, trying his best not to notice the soft touch from Muging's chest and hands when she was twisting her body, and tried to use words to divert his attention. "Can you please stop moving around?" "What? What can I do if I don't move? Am I supposed to let you take advantage of me? Aren't you also letting me take advantage of you by moving around like this? Then hurry up and think of a way. Aren't you a man? At this time, I'd rather not be a man. That way, I wouldn't be as miserable as I am now." "Miserable? You said miserable? You actually said miserable? Is there something wrong? I should be the miserable one. Undoubtedly, you're enjoying it. Who wants to enjoy it so much? What do you mean by that? Undoubtedly, you're touching my body and you're saying something like that. I've really misjudged you." As Noah and Muging's emotions became more and more agitated, their voices became louder and louder, inevitably causing some noises to come out of the closet. Rentaro, who was fiddling with his laptop in boredom, seemed to have noticed something and raised his puzzled face. "What's that sound?" Inside the closet, Noah and Muging's hearts skipped a beat at the same time and they shut their mouths tightly. However, no matter what, Rentaro was still a police officer. There was no way he would think that he was hallucinating. Therefore, Rentaro stood up with a puzzled look on his face and looked around the room. Then, he frowned and looked in the direction of the closet. Noah and Muging's heartbeats were so fast because they were so close to each other that they could feel it. In their hearts, they were desperately praying that they would not be discovered. Otherwise, with Noah and Muging's current state, one was completely naked while the other was groping a naked girl while hiding in the wardrobe, others would definitely think that they were engaging in some kind of play to improve their relationship. Unfortunately, this time, it seemed that even God could not bear to watch. In the next second, Ryotaro frowned and walked towards the wardrobe, step by step. Woo-woo. Mugging let out a few whimpers as if she had chosen to give up. It was as if she did not want another man to see her important body parts. She squeezed her entire body into Noah's arms and closed her eyes. Noah also sensed Muging's thoughts. He sighed in his heart and adjusted his body slightly to block Muging's naked body. In this state, even if Rentaro opened the closet, Muging's body would not be seen. When Mugging realized this, she had a strange feeling about Noah's actions. This man seemed to be gentler than she had imagined. Under such circumstances, both of them were mentally prepared for the closet to be opened. At this moment, bang! On the street outside, a loud crash suddenly sounded and gave Rentaro a fright. What happened? Rentaro was stunned. He quickly ran to the window and looked outside. In the closet, Noah's heart skipped a beat. This was a good opportunity. Pa! In the almost inaudible sound, Noah hugged Mugging and opened the closet as fast as he could. In a flash, he grabbed the clothes that Mugging had thrown on the desk and turned into a blur as he rushed out of the office. Chapter 113. Kacha, Ryotaro, who was looking out the window, heard the door open. He turned around and looked at the door. Mugging, who was dressed in a black sailor suit, walked in, causing Ryotaro to feel somewhat puzzled. Ryotaro wasn't sure if it was just his imagination. He felt that not only was Muging's face a little red, but her breathing was also a little rapid. Her breasts under the black sailor suit were unnaturally bouncing up and down. "Mugen-san?" Ryotaro asked in confusion. "What's wrong with you?" "What do you mean what's wrong?" Mugging put on a fake smile and looked away guiltily. "What are you doing, Rikio-kun?" "Me?" Ryotaro scratched his head and suppressed his confusion. "Mugen-san, didn't you hear a loud noise? It sounded like a car accident down there, didn't it?" After saying that, a look of doubt appeared on Ryotaro's face again. "Mugen-san, didn't you just arrive? Didn't you notice? This. Mugging stuttered, making Ryotaro even more suspicious. An unpleasant feeling rose in his heart. He had a feeling that Mugen-san was hiding something from him today. At this time, a slightly helpless voice came from behind Mugen. I said, if you want to talk, let's talk inside. Don't block the door, okay? Mugen jumped in fright when she heard this voice. She retreated to the side in an extremely exaggerated manner. Huh? Ryutaru was also surprised. Noah? Ryutaru, what are you doing? Compared to Mugen, who was acting strangely, Noah acted as if nothing had happened. He walked into the office with a calm expression as usual and greeted Rentaro. Where's Yenju? Don't mention it. Ryutaru sighed. She said she's going to watch some anime called Heavenly Retribution at home. She's hiding in Fairy Tail and won't come out. Is that so? Noah smiled knowingly. That sounds like something Yenju would do. Right? Seeing Noah chatting with Rentaro as if nothing had happened, Mugen, who had been hiding in a corner, suddenly showed an angry expression. Could it be that the president of a fairy tale is so arrogant that she can't see the president of our small company? Hearing Mugen's exasperated words, before Noah could react, Rentaro was stunned. What happened to Miss Mugen? Why was he so angry? On the other side, Noah glanced at Mugen, whose face was full of anger. His gaze imperceptibly moved away from her voluptuous body, but his tone could not help but become tit-for-tat. What are you talking about, President Tiantong? Our fairy tale is a poor little organization that can only live in the outer area. Naturally, we're not as famous as Tiantong's daughter. I am me. A heaven child is a heaven child. Mugen immediately retorted aggressively and glared at Noah. Don't confuse me with a heaven child. Oh. Noah smiled steadily. Then I'm really sorry. As soon as he finished speaking, Noah and Mugen's gazes instantly met. At first, sparks were ignited like they were enemies. Then, they seemed to have thought of something. One of them had an uneasy expression while the other blushed and looked away. Rentaro was at a loss as he looked at the inexplicable situation before him. If Xia Shi or even Yenju were here, they would definitely be able to see what happened between Noah and Mugen. Right now, they were just cursing at each other to hide their wavering hearts. Unfortunately, Rentaro did not have such good eyesight, so he could only carefully ask. What's wrong with the two of you? Nothing. Noah and Mugen replied at the same time. When they realized that each other had said the same thing, they glared at each other. Don't copy me. I told you not to copy me. Are you doing this on purpose? You, Noah and Mugen said this at the same time. Therefore, after a while, the two of them stopped at the same time and looked at each other without saying a word, causing the atmosphere to become a little strange. Although Rentaro did not know what was going on, his intuition told him that it was best not to ask too much. That. Ryutaru quickly changed the topic and said to Noah, Noah, why are you here? When Rentaro asked this question, Mugen suddenly remembered this question. Noah also remembered the matter at hand. He adjusted his attitude and looked at Rentaro seriously. I heard from Muri that she gave you some things that were supposed to be given to me, right? Rentaro's expression changed, and it was very obvious. He looked at Noah with a serious gaze. Mugen frowned when he noticed the change in the atmosphere and looked at Rentaro. Rikum-kun, what's wrong? Rentaro did not reply. Instead, after a moment of silence, he took out a stack of documents from the inside pocket of his uniform. Seeing that, Noah also walked forward and extended his hand, wanting to take the document from Ryutaru's hand. However, Ryutaru dodged his hand. Why do you want this? Rentaro stared at Noah and raised his hand that was holding the documents. I apologize first. I've already read the contents inside, so I hope you can answer me directly. Noah did not answer immediately. Instead, he secretly sighed in his heart. Did it really become like this? Rikum-kun. Mugen seemed to have realized that the documents in Rentaro's hand were not ordinary. She did not care about what had just happened with Noah and approached. What is that? Mugen-san. For a moment, there was a hint of struggle in Rentaro's eyes. However, he gave up in the end and responded word by word. Here are all the evidence of those in the Celestial Child clan who have positions in the officialdom and committed crimes such as embezzlement and corruption. Tentong. Muging's pupils slowly shrank to the limit and then began to dilate again. Her hands trembled as she slowly reached for the documents in Rentaro's hand. Rentaro seemed to have expected this from Muging. Just as he was about to withdraw his hand was empty. All the documents were taken by Noah. "Give it to me." Before Rentaro could say anything, Muging excitedly said to Noah and pounced on him. "Give it to me." Noah took a step back and avoided Muging's pouncing figure. He looked at Muging, his eyes filled with confusion at Muging's overreaction. "What do you want this for? What about you?" Muging also noticed that her behavior was a little overboard. She adjusted her breathing and asked in a low voice. "What do you want this for?" Originally, Noah expected to be asked this question when he knew that these documents were handed over to Rentaro by Emoji. However, he did not intend to answer. However, seeing Muging's current state, Noah pondered for a moment before speaking. "If I say that when necessary, I will use these as the last force to topple the Tentong clan, what will you do?" Suddenly, there was a dead silence. "Topple the Tentong clan," Rentaro murmured. "As expected, topple the Tentong clan." Muging also murmured in a low voice. A look of hesitation flashed across her eyes, but it quickly turned into determination. No. Rather than determination, it was more like a sinister darkness. "I can do it too." Muging took a step forward and stared at Noah. Her voice was so low that it seemed to come from the abyss. "I can also be a force for you to topple the Tentong clan." As soon as this sentence came out, Rentaro's expression froze and he did not react. Noah furrowed his brows tightly. He looked at Muging, who was completely different from usual. It was as if even his aura had turned dark. He was at a loss for words. After a while, Noah took a deep look at Muging, turned around, and walked out of the door, leaving only this sentence. "We'll see." Rentaro hesitated for a moment before chasing after him. Muging remained in the office, looking at the door in silence. Chapter 114. On the busy street, Noah and Ryutaru walked side by side. Noya and Rentaro walked past the waves of people around them. Other than paying attention to the red lights when they were crossing the road, they just kept walking forward without any intention of talking. They didn't even seem to have a destination in mind. They just kept walking forward. Therefore, only Noah and Ryutaru could sense that there was an undetectable heaviness in the space where only the two of them were present. Just like that, after an unknown amount of time, Ryutaru suddenly spoke first. 10 years ago, a protozoan suddenly broke into Miss Muging's house and ate her parents right in front of her. Ryutaru had said this without any warning at all. As a result, even Noah couldn't help but pause for a moment. After a while, he recovered and continued walking forward without saying anything. At that time, although Miss Muging was lucky enough to survive, the function of her kidneys was almost completely lost. Until now, she still has to go to the hospital regularly for kidney washing and hemodialysis. Otherwise, even if Miss Muging didn't die because of kidney failure, she would collapse from the pain. In this regard, Ryutaru didn't seem to want to wait for Noah to say anything and continued talking as if he was talking to himself. Since then, Miss Muging left the Celestial Tong family and established her own family. She lived with the goal of burying all the Celestial Tong family. That could be said to be the motivation for Miss Muging to survive in this world. Noah, who was quietly listening to Ryutaru, remained silent, but he didn't stay silent for too long. After a while, he spoke without turning his head. "The death of Muging's parents is related to the Tentong family?" Ryutaru didn't answer, which could be considered as a tacit admission. In fact, it wasn't hard to guess. When Muging's parents died, Muging left the Tentong family and didn't want to go back no matter how hard life was. At that time, how old was Muging? Judging from Ryutaru's tone of reminiscence, mugging leaving the Tentong family definitely wasn't something that happened recently, right? That was why mugging didn't want to go back to the Tentong family and didn't regret living a poor life. She didn't even think about the possibility of returning to the Tentong family. This was very controversial. This wasn't a big deal. More importantly, even if this was the case, mugging still threatened to bury all the heavenly children, burying the people in his family. That would be a big problem. Connecting the cause and effect, it was believed that those who were sharper would realize that the death of Muging's parents was related to the celestial Tong family. 10 years ago, before the protogut animals invaded the human world and even before they were born, the Tendo clan wasn't an ordinary clan. After the Tokyo region became independent, the Tendo clan became closely related to the government with the support of the Tendo Chrysanthemum Prime Minister. Rentaro looked ahead and said, "For the Prime Minister of the Celestial Tong Chrysanthemum to be able to rise to power and become the Holy Son of Heaven's assistant, his methods are not ordinary. Under his influence, almost all of the famous figures in the Celestial Tong family are in power. However, these people, including the Prime Minister of the Celestial Tong Chrysanthemum, are not necessarily innocent." After saying that, Rentaro turned his gaze to the document Noah had put into a folder. "These in your hands already explain this point, right? I'm just thinking that since so many people in the Celestial Tong family are officials, it's impossible that all of them are innocent, so I asked Maji to help me collect evidence." Noah shook his head and raised the folder in his hand. In fact, those who have read the contents should know that the people recorded in it are basically insignificant people in the Celestial Tong family. The real important people, such as the Prime Minister of the Celestial Tong Chrysanthemum, are definitely not recorded in it. "Then why are you collecting these?" Rentaro couldn't help but ask. "Even if you publicize it, it's just a small blow to the Celestial Tong family. There's no way to hurt the foundation of the Celestial Tong family, right? That's why I said that this is to be used when necessary as a force to overthrow the Celestial Tong family." Noah glanced at Rentaro beside him and gave a meaningful explanation. "The hearts of people in this world are very complicated. Most of them are dark and easily bewitched. Some insignificant things will be used when necessary, and that small blow will become a fatal blow. I don't believe that you don't understand this." Ryotaro was at a loss for words, but he quickly followed up with another question in an aggressive tone. "Then why do you want to go against the Celestial Tong family?" Hearing this, Noah thought for a moment. After realizing that there was nothing to hide, he laughed self-deprecatingly. "Because I realized that if we don't overthrow the Prime Minister of the Celestial Tong Chrysanthemum, the children won't have any happiness to speak of. At least, that's the case in Tokyo." Rentaro couldn't help but recall what Noah said before. He, the Prime Minister of the Celestial Tong Chrysanthemum, wants all the cursed children to go to hell, but I want all the cursed children to live a life like heaven. Therefore, he targets all the cursed children, but I want to protect all the cursed children. We just have different standpoints. But, is it really okay for you to do this? Rentaro said this sentence almost subconsciously. Right now, in Tokyo, many places are inseparable from the Celestial Tong. Let's not talk about whether you can overthrow the Celestial Tong. Even if you can, Tokyo will definitely be in chaos because of this. If that's the case, Tokyo will most likely suffer a great blow, and might not even be able to exist, right? Noah finished all the words that Rentaro wanted to say. His gaze towards Rentaro also became sympathetic. "You really do look like that young Princess Sama, Rentaro." Young Princess Sama? The son of heaven? Rentaro didn't expect Noah to suddenly give such an evaluation. He was stunned. "Why?" "It's very simple," Noah replied indifferently. "Because you are the kind of people who would not hesitate to sacrifice themselves if they can carry out the greater good. Even the people who sacrifice themselves must be the type that will make the people around you hesitate." "How is that possible?" Rentaro couldn't help but laugh, but his smile was a little forced. It was as if he had been poked at a weakness that even he didn't know about, and was unwilling to admit it. He refuted without thinking. "How can I be the type of person who dies early?" "Maybe." Noah gave a noncommittal smile, but his eyes were surprisingly serious. But, I'm different from you, Rentaro. I must tell you that if someone hurts the people around me, then I definitely won't be able to persuade myself to let them go for the sake of the greater good. The fairy tale will always exist for my family and companions. With that, Noah stopped in his tracks, turned around, and faced Rentaro. So, if I were mugging, I definitely wouldn't fall into the darkness and become a vengeful spirit like her. But, for the sake of revenge, I won't let anyone who dares to hurt my family and companions go. Ignoring Rentaro, who was still in a daze, Noah changed direction and left without looking back. I hope you can remember this. Rentaro was speechless as he watched Noah's figure gradually disappear into the crowd. He was still in a daze as he watched Noah's figure disappear into the crowd. Even Noah didn't notice him amidst the crowd. Not far away, a figure overheard the entire conversation between Noah and Rentaro. The figure raised his hand and stared at them. At first, his eyes were blank, but then they turned into a desperate darkness. Even if I fall into the darkness and become a vengeful spirit, I won't let anyone who dares to hurt my family go. I won't let Tendo go. The words turned into a resolute force that drilled into the heart of the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice clenched his fists and looked deeply in the direction where Noah disappeared. After a long time, he disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 115. GUH. In an extremely dark room, Noah pierced a needle connected to a device into his arm and let out a muffled sound. In the center of the device was a culture tank the size of a thumb. The unknown liquid inside was slowly decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the water level gradually dropped. It flowed into Noah's arm through the test tube on the device, then followed the blood flow to Noah's entire body. Noah's eyes had long turned into an ominous crimson color, and his body seemed to be twitching. Every muscle in his body was slightly pulsating, as if something was growing inside, intending to break through the limits of his skin and take in fresh air. He was rolling back and forth. Ugh! Noah only felt that his body seemed to be burning. He clutched his chest, tensed his body, bent his back, and endured as if he was enduring something. At the same time, he continued to let out muffled groans. It didn't take long for the unknown liquid in the culture tank to be completely consumed. Noah's body seemed to have relaxed as he regained his calmness. Phew! Noah, who took a deep breath, straightened his body and pulled out the needle pierced into his skin. After slightly clenching his fist, he frowned and then sighed. As expected, the strengthening of my body by the protozoa virus has almost reached its limit. Relying on his control of his body and strength, Noah found that the strengthening this time was greatly inferior to before. Compared to the growth strength obtained when he first used the protozoa virus to strengthen his body, the strengthening of Noah's body by the protozoa virus was now more than 10 times weaker. The strengthening of other aspects had also more or less weakened. Only the ability of a certain species factor carried by the protozoa virus would still strengthen Noah's body, but compared to before, this situation was becoming less and less frequent. After all, although there were thousands of species in this world, it did not mean that there was an infinite number of them. After more than a year of strengthening, Noah almost possessed the abilities of most species. The species factor carried by the protozoan virus injected into Noah's body could not avoid overlapping. Under such circumstances, Noah naturally would not obtain the same species factor ability. Therefore, the enhancement of the species factor carried by the protozoan virus decreased. He believed that it would not be long before the protozoan virus of this world would no longer affect Noah's body in the slightest. It would not even have any strengthening effects. Noah clenched his fists and felt the difference between his physical strength and the one he had when he first came to this world. He smiled. However, a year of strengthening is enough. I should be content. Looking up, Noah had the mood of saying goodbye soon. He studied the device in front of him that was used to collect the protozoan virus in the air. He put the test tube connected to the needle back into the device, turned around, and walked out of the room. Guild leader. As soon as Noah walked out of the room and closed the door, a petite figure came to Noah with a tray filled with tea. Thank you for your hard work. Please have some tea. The moment he heard the voice, Noah knew who it was. he said with a bitter expression on his face. Xiaoshi, it's you again? Xiaoshi, who was holding the tray, tilted her head and looked at Noah with her big watery eyes without blinking. Guild leader, you don't want me to come? It's not that I don't want you to come. Noah scratched his cheek. But I don't even know that you come every time. At least, when you enter my house, you should have pressed the doorbell, right? Is that so? Xiaoshi's cute but cold face was not moved by the fact that she had broken into someone's house without permission. Instead, she said as if it was a matter of course. But in that case, I wouldn't be able to help you when you need it. Even if you did, you wouldn't tell me, right? Ever since she joined Fairy Tale, Xiaoshi had been living in this state. She did not mention who she wanted to partner up with and form a police team again. She also did not mention that she wanted to go to school, play games, and live a stable life like the other cursed children. Instead, she would appear coldly by Noah's side from time to time and help when Noah needed help. According to Xiaoshi's own words, she wanted to help Noah. Furthermore, it wasn't just a little bit of help. Instead, he hoped that he could solve Noah's problems and help him greatly. Therefore, during this period of time, Xiaoshi would always find an opportunity to get involved in small matters such as pouring tea and water, or major decisions related to Fairy Tale. And it just so happened that this 10-year-old girl had an IQ as high as 210. She did everything properly, making it impossible for people to find a reason to reject her. Noah was actually very grateful that Xiaoshi helped him deal with a lot of things, making him feel much more relaxed. But, if Xiaoshi could get rid of the habit of breaking into Noah's house whenever she felt that she could help, then it would be perfect. But that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was, what kind of help are you getting into my bed every night? Noah could not help but ask this extremely serious question. Now, every night I think that someone is trying to sneak up on me, so I wake up in the middle of the night. The first time, I almost made a move on you. That would cause trouble, right? I didn't know that you were so vigilant. If I wanted to sneak in, at least I wouldn't disturb your rest. Xiaoshi looked like she did not understand and looked at Noah. As for how I can help, it should be easy to guess, right? Sorry, I really can't guess. Noah said without hesitation. What kind of help can you get into my bed? Hearing this, Xiaoshi did not hesitate to answer. Warm the bed. Huh? Noah doubted his ears. What? Warm the bed. Xiaoshi replied with a calm face. Although my body is relatively small, I still have body heat. I should be able to warm the bed for you, President. Noah opened his mouth, but in the end, he could not say a word. After a while, he sighed as if he had surrendered. I understand. I'm really sorry to trouble you. It's nothing. Xiaoshi met Noah's gaze, her eyes showing some excitement. Then, tonight, you don't need to warm the bed. Noah suddenly grabbed Xiaoshi's slender shoulders and said to her seriously. So, you can stay at home tonight. You don't need to come over. Do you understand? This. Xiaoshi still wanted to say something, but in the end, she was suppressed by Noah's aura. Somewhat unwillingly, she lowered her head and her voice became disappointed. I understand. Good girl. Only then did Noah satisfactorily pat Xiaoshi's small head. He picked up the tray in Xiaoshi's hand and drank the tea. Oh right. At this time, Xiaoshi suddenly spoke. President, there is something I need to report to you. Noah's hand movement stopped, and he looked at Xiaoshi. What is it? Just now, a request was sent to Fairy Tale, and it specifically requested that you, the guild leader, carry out this mission. Xiaoshi put down the tray in her hand and walked to the side of the table in front of the sofa. From the pile of documents on the table, she found a piece of paper and handed it to Noah. I think this request is quite special. President should take a look at it yourself. Noah took the request from Xiaoshi's hand. After glancing at it, he was stunned. Guard mission? When he saw the name of the client on the request, Noah was stunned and said in astonishment, "Holy Son of Heaven?" Chapter 116. Tokyo District 1, Holy Residence. Under the lead of the guard, Noah walked in the corridor that seemed to be emitting light. He was trying to figure out why Holy Son of Heaven personally issued the commission and asked him to carry it out. Noah admitted that his relationship with Holy Son of Heaven was not good enough to let Holy Son of Heaven specifically pick him out of countless groups of police in the Tokyo area when Holy Son of Heaven needed a guard. It was better to say that because of the relationship between Tentong and Holy Son of Heaven, the relationship between Noah and Holy Son of Heaven may be worse than it seems on the surface. After all, in the several meetings before and after, Noah did not give the other party any face because of his identity as the supreme ruler of the Tokyo area, and the several conversations were basically thorny. In addition, Holy Son of Heaven also wanted to get bullets from Noah to use in the great cause of saving the whole world, but Noah directly rejected him last time. Logically speaking, Holy Son of Heaven's impression of Noah should be very bad. In this way, why did Holy Son of Heaven directly appoint Noah to be the guard when he needed it? Noah had been thinking about this question since he received the commission from Holy Son of Heaven and came to the holy residence, but he had been unable to come up with an answer. If it were someone else, Noah would have just rejected the request and gotten it over with. However, even though Noah did not say a single good word to the Holy Son of Heaven, he did not hate her. In fact, he even had a good impression of her because of the new law on primitive animals that she set up. Therefore, Noah decided to come and take a look for the time being. So, under the lead of the guard, Noah came to a spacious room with simple decorations that looked like someone's suite. Lord Holy Son of Heaven is dealing with affairs. We have already informed other guards to invite Lord Holy Son of Heaven to come here. The guard who led Noah here bowed to Noah and made an inviting gesture. So, please wait here for a while. It's okay. Noah naturally did not lack this patience and nodded to the guard. I will wait here. Thank you for your understanding. A smile appeared on the previously strict and courteous face of the guard. After bowing, he slowly retreated and closed the door behind him. At the scene, Noah was the only one left standing. Looking around the vast room in front of him, Noah found that not only was there a sofa, a small round table, and a tea room, there was even a bookshelf, a dressing table, a piano, and a luxurious double bed that occupied a large area. Originally, Noah thought that this was a reception room, but now, it seemed more like the boudoir of some rich young lady than a reception room. Realizing this, Noah couldn't help but laugh. Could it be that this was the princess's room? While thinking it was impossible, Noah, who was amused by his own thoughts, glanced around the room again. Then, his eyes fixed on the piano in the room. Today, Noah did not bring his magic knight sword. Speaking of which, after coming to this world where the power level was much lower than Noah's original world for more than a year, Noah could not find the opportunity to use the magic knight sword apart from training. Thus, today, Noah only brought guns and ammunition, leaving the magic knight sword at home. He could be considered to be going into battle lightly. Lifting his feet, Noah walked to the piano, stretched out his hand, and lightly brushed the keys on the piano before sitting down. In the past year, in order to be able to perfectly integrate into this world, Noah spent a lot of effort. When he first came to this world, Noah buried himself in books almost every day. Through books after books, he taught himself languages, knowledge, history, and even various unorthodox subjects. For example, architecture, engineering, science, literature, and so on. Noah more or less touched upon them, trying to understand everything in this world as quickly as possible. Of course, this included music. Closing his eyes, Noah flipped through a piano score in his mind and recalled the way to play the piano. After a while, he stretched out his hand and put his fingers on the piano. Ding! Following the extremely clear sound of a note, the atmosphere of the scene not only completely changed, but also filled with a dreamy atmosphere. Following this, a very beautiful melody echoed in the vast room. From simple notes, it gradually merged into a smooth sound of the piano. The pleasant sound of the piano continued to resound, accompanied by Noah's fingers lightly tapping on the piano keys, turning into echoes like flowing water, and also turned into ripples that continuously lingered in the air. Noah's eyes were tightly closed. In his mind, in his heart, he could not help but think of that noisy guild. That was the hope in Noah's heart. That was the place in Noah's heart that belonged to him. That was Noah's final destination. That was the place that Noah missed all the time. Thinking of those active and noisy companions. Thinking of those cute and annoying family members. Thinking of those nostalgic and charming smiling faces. She recalled the bright and proud tattoos on her body that showed that she belonged to the goblin. Unknowingly, Noah's heart had been filled with thoughts of each and every one of them, which made the piano music also brought along a feeling that could not be ignored and was extremely straightforward, which could tug at people's heartstrings. Until a long time, clap 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 clap, the sudden applause awakened Noah, who had closed his eyes tightly, and made Noah come back to his senses. It was not until now that Noah realized that his performance had already ended. And at the door of the room, the Holy Son, who was wearing a white suit as usual, stood there. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could be said 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 that it was amazing. A more sincere smile hung on her pretty face than before, and her slender hands, which were wearing white lace gloves, were also clapping rhythmically. I didn't expect President Noah to be able to play the piano, and play so beautifully. It's really amazing. As the supreme ruler of the Tokyo area, although the Holy Son was relatively young, but he had seen a lot of big and small scenes. However, even so, the Holy Son of Heaven still used the evaluation of too shocking. It was conceivable that this beautiful girl liked Noah's piano performance very much. This also made Noah smile slightly and stood up. Don't get me wrong, I'm not that good at playing the piano. For the piano, I'm only limited to playing the piano. Just now, I just happened to be in a good state to play the piano better. If it was in the past, being able to smoothly play the whole song would be considered a success. Even so, the fact that President Noah just played a very beautiful song will not change. The Holy Son, with a much softer expression than before, approached the direction of Noah. I like that song very much. It's an unexpected gain to be able to hear such a song. From the tone of the Holy Son, Noah did not feel the slightest falsehood. That is to say, what the Holy Son said now was from the heart, there was not a bit of falsehood. However, what Noah said was also completely true, there was not a bit of falsehood. If it was in the past, Noah definitely would not have been able to play as well as today. Just now, it was just a coincidence that he missed fairy tale in his heart, which made the sound of the zither carry a rare sincerity. Otherwise, Noah's performance would not have been able to receive a good evaluation from Elysium. Noah had no choice but to shrug his shoulders and change the topic. Let's put the piano matter aside for now. Today, I'm here to hear about the commission. At this point, Noah looked into the Holy Son's eyes. Can you tell me in detail? The elegant and quiet smile on the Holy Son's face slowly disappeared, replaced by the usual holiness that kept people 1,000 miles away. President Noah, I don't know if you have heard of the name Chi Wuzongxuan? Chapter 117. Chi Wuzongxuan. Hearing this familiar name, Noah frowned. He didn't hide his dislike for this name or the owner of this name. Xing Tianzi didn't expect Noah to have such a reaction, and his face showed a surprised look. What? President Noah has seen Chi Wuzongxuan? No, I haven't seen him. Noah's frowned brows gradually relaxed. But, even if you haven't seen him, I believe that the name Chi Wuzongxuan, no matter who it is, will more or less have some impression. Xing Tianzi nodded in agreement. In this country that used to be called Japan, now, except for the unexplored areas occupied by protozoa, there are 5 areas where humans can live. Tokyo, Sapporo, Sendai, Osaka, Bodo. In these 5 regions, each of the 5 heads of state ruled over one of the 5 regions. Xing Tianzi is the ruler of the Tokyo area. And Chi Wuzongxuan is the ruler of the Osaka area. Noah really hasn't met the ruler of Osaka, but he has contacted him twice on the phone. The first time was after the establishment of fairy tale, and gradually made a name for itself. The second time was recently when the Scorpio was killed and the existence of the bullet was exposed to the world to confuse the public. Therefore, Noah was not unfamiliar with this name. Xing Tianzi seemed to have more or less guessed the reason for this and spoke with some distress. Actually, the president of Chi Wu suddenly asked us to come to the Tokyo area in the next few days, hoping that we can prepare for a meeting. A meeting? Noah was startled and puzzled. As far as I know, in the past few years, the Tokyo area and the Osaka area have not been in contact and communication, right? Why did he suddenly ask for a meeting? I don't know. Xing Tianzi glanced at Noah hesitantly. But, I think, could the president be coming for President Noah? Me? Noah pondered for a moment, then shook his head and denied it. No, I don't think so. Maybe Chiwu Zhongshuan doesn't mind meeting me directly, but I don't think his real target this time is me. Is that so? The Holy Son lowered his eyes slightly. But he chose to visit me at this time, which makes me a little uneasy. Uneasy? Noah tilted his head and looked at the Elysian prince. Why? Suddenly, the beautiful princess showed a bitter expression. After a while, she opened her mouth in shame. Because Mr. Kikuchi isn't in Tokyo right now. Hearing this, Noah raised his eyebrows slightly. In other words, without that old man around, you don't dare to come into contact with those big shots? I admit that I'm not very mature, but I'm not afraid because of a meeting. The Elysian prince said to Noah with a little reproach in his voice. The reason why I feel uneasy is because the president of Chi Wu and Mr. Kikuchi Cheng were political enemies before the war. For him, his opponent in Tokyo should be Mr. Kikuchi Cheng, not me, who just came of age. So that's how it is. Noah pretended not to see the Elysian prince's reproach and said. For Chiwu Zhongshuan, the real threat in Tokyo should be the old man, but this time, he came at this time when the old man is not around. It seems that he didn't just come to test something or to discuss some political affairs, but he has other purposes. Are you feeling uneasy? Yes. The Elysian prince raised his head and looked up at Noah, who was more than a head taller than himself. His holy face seemed to be shining. So, I hope that during this time, President Noah can always protect me as a guard and attend the meeting with me. Attend the meeting with you as a guard? Noah crossed his arms and asked. Why choose me? This was also the biggest question in Noah's heart. Excluding other factors, Noah was not a good choice for the duty of a guard. The reason was very simple. Although Noah had obtained a police license for the sake of convenience and could be considered a police officer, he still did not have his own initiator until now. As everyone knew, the initiators had powers that far exceeded that of humans. So, even if he wanted to choose a guard, the Elysian prince should choose those who had a powerful initiator as a partner and a relatively high IP ranking. There was no reason to choose Noah, who didn't have a partner and whose IP ranking had not been promoted because of this. In addition, there was another problem. Don't you have regular guards by your side? Noah asked. I heard that you have your own guards. I was just about to introduce them to you. The Elysian prince said as he greeted Noah and led him out of the room. Outside the room, a group of about 6 men dressed in solemn white attire were neatly lined up in a line, standing there as if they were in a parade. As if they had been waiting here since the beginning, when Noah and the Elysian prince came out of the room, everyone's eyes were focused on them. Almost at the instant these people's gazes converged on him, Noah felt an extremely obscure hostility and even murderous aura following closely behind. It caused his figure to pause for a moment, and then he recovered his nonchalant appearance. President Noah. The Elysian prince closed the door and nodded to Noah. This is my guard. At the same time, in the middle of the guards, an extremely tall man stepped forward and looked at Noah with a smile. I am Zhuo Meng, the captain of the Elysian prince's guards. I have heard of you for a long time, President Noah. With that said, the captain of the guards, Zhuo Ren, extended his hand to Noah with a friendly expression on his face. However, Noah did not even look at Zhuo Meng's hand. Instead, he raised his head and looked into Zhuo Meng's eyes. In that pair of eyes that were like a scorpion, filled with aggression and danger, Noah very clearly captured the hidden coldness and malice. At that moment, Noah glanced at Zhuo Meng, and the corner of his mouth curled up at an angle that seemed to make the temperature of the scene drop a little. He extended his hand and shook Zhuo Meng's hand. "I am Noah." The smile on Zhuo Meng's face suddenly became wider and wider. He seemed to welcome Noah very much. The Elysian prince, who saw the two getting along well, couldn't help but show a smile. Only Noah could feel that as soon as he shook Zhuo Meng's hand, a strong grip immediately came from Zhuo Meng's hand. If it was an ordinary person, even if it was a police officer who didn't lack training, he would have groaned in pain due to being caught off guard by the other party's strong grip. Unfortunately, Noah has been training his physical abilities for many years. In the past year, he has continuously strengthened himself with the protozoan virus countless times. His physical ability has long surpassed that of humans, even far surpassing that of the cursed child. Therefore, Bao Wei Zhuoran could only feel that he was not holding a palm, but a piece of incomparably hard steel. Not only did the force he exerted on it not return, but it also bounced back as if there was no force behind it, causing his hand to hurt. Even his expression was slightly distorted. Noticing that something was wrong, the Elysian prince immediately stepped forward and chuckled at Noah. "In that case, President Noah, would you be willing to accept this guard mission?" In an instant, Noah felt that the hostility and malice from Zhuo Meng became even more obvious. Looking at the beautiful Elysian prince and then at Zhuo Meng, an idea arose in Noah's mind. At the same time, he suddenly smiled and gave such an answer. "Yes. I'd be happy to." Chapter 118. For the next hour, Noah stayed in the holy residence and discussed with Elysium the details of the guard plan, the route, the schedule, the payment, the deadline, and so on. Originally, things like the guard plan, the route, and the itinerary should have been discussed with Noah by the holy residence's guards, led by Bao Mengjua. There was no need to trouble the Holy Sun about the remuneration. He only needed to discuss it with the Holy Sun's secretary. However, Elysium used the reason that Noah was her personal guard and that she was the one who entrusted Noah with the task. She gave Noah full authority to draft the guard plan and let Elysium personally discuss the payment with Noah. In this regard, Noah did not have any objections. He did not need to discuss the guard plan with the holy residence guards, nor did he need to discuss the payment with some unknown secretary. He only needed to discuss with Elysium, which was quite relaxing. After drafting the guard plan and handing it over to Elysium, Noah walked out of the room under Elysium's gaze. Sigh, walking in a corridor of the holy residence that led to an unknown place, Noah scratched his cheek and suddenly sighed. Qi Wuzhongshuan. Thinking back to the 2 times he spoke with Qi Wuzhongshuan on the phone, Noah could not help but feel lazy. He had an impulse to regret accepting this commission. To be honest, although they had only talked twice, Noah's impression of Qi Wuzhongshuan was really bad. It was almost comparable to Chrysanthemum Tenzin. It could be said that Qi Wuzhongshuan was definitely the most typical type of person that Noah hated the most. Therefore, Noah did not want to deal with people like that at all. In addition, Qi Wuzhongshuan was a political enemy of Chrysanthemum Tenzin for more than 10 years. When he thought that he would have to face someone who was very similar to Chrysanthemum Tenzin in some aspects, Noah could not help but feel a sense of irritation. Sure enough, it's better to reject this commission, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Noah abruptly stopped in his tracks, and a thought-provoking look appeared in his eyes. I also agree with your idea. Then, it was unknown if the man had noticed that Noah had stopped before he appeared. Behind Noah, a hard object was pressed against the back of his head. Noah Dole, it's best if you give up on this mission, even if it's for your own sake. After saying that, the rest of the people emerged from behind Noah and surrounded him, except for the one who was standing behind him. They were dressed in dignified white attire and had guns at their waists. However, the holsters were empty and the guns were held in their hands. They surrounded Noah and aimed at his body. They were the guards of the holy abode that had just entered Noah's sight under the introduction of the Holy Sun. Noah looked around at the guards who surrounded him and pointed their guns at him. Seeing the ridicule and contempt in their eyes and faces at the same time, he shrugged helplessly. What are you doing? Captain Zhuameng? The person who stood behind Noah and pointed a gun at the back of Noah's head was none other than Zhuameng. However, in a situation where Noah could not see but could guess, Zhuameng's face, which had been very friendly until now had the same sinister expression as the bully. A pair of eyes that were almost identical to that of a snake and a lizard released undisguised malice. Shut up. Zhuameng pressed the gun in his hand to the back of Noah's head and shouted in a low voice. I am the glorious captain of the Holy Abode's guards. You are just a monster leader who adopted a group of monsters. Don't talk to me as if you are my equal. The surrounding guards suddenly laughed mockingly, but they did not notice that Noah's eyes had already begun to turn cold. The hero who defeated Scorpio. Zhuameng seemed to have tolerated Noah for a long time and kept whispering in a low voice. If I had the bullet that could defeat Scorpio, I could also become the hero who defeated Scorpio. You are such a lucky guy, you are really unpleasant to look at. Why is it you? Slowly, the tone of Zhuameng's bodyguard was filled with hatred. Undoubtedly, His Excellency Heavenly Child has entrusted the Holy Sun to me. The person standing next to the Holy Sun should be me. Why did you, a lucky guy, suddenly get entrusted by the Holy Sun and was even invited into his room by the Holy Sun? Room? This time, Noah was surprised. Is that really the Holy Sun's room? Add the word Lord for me. Zhuameng couldn't help but growl. Don't call me so intimately. That beautiful head of state is mine. Only I can get her and become the new ruler of Tokyo. Oh. Noah looked motionless in front of him and said indifferently. Although I have a little guess, you really have so much hostility to me because of this. Listening to Noah's somewhat indifferent words, Zhuameng's pupils widened slightly, and his body trembled with anger. Why are you pretending to be calm? Zhuameng raised his hand holding the gun, and then slammed the butt of the gun at Noah's head. He did not mean to show any mercy. You should be trembling with fear now. After the words, Zhuameng's gun that was ready to hit Noah's head swung, but it hit empty air. With a whistling sound, Noah, who was originally standing in front of Zhuameng with his back facing Zhuameng, suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. When he reappeared, he was already behind Zhuameng. Then, before everyone present could react, Noah casually extended his leg and hooked it under the foot of the bodyguard, who was leaning forward because he missed his swing. Bang! The bodyguard, who had completely lost his balance, was not prepared at all. He heavily smashed into the ground. His nose, which was originally firm, had become the part that was most affected by the impact. Zhua let out a disappointing scream. Around, all the guards who wanted to watch a good show did not expect Noah to suddenly counterattack. After they reacted, they quickly aimed at Noah. However, in the next moment, those guards' faces showed a stunned look. It was because the guns that should have been in their hands had disappeared without them knowing. Hey! Noah's voice sounded. Are you looking for this? As this sentence came out, Noah waved his hand casually, and a pile of guns fell from his hand, making a dull thud on the ground. You! The guards began to retreat because of the shock. You, bastard! Zhuameng, who fell to the ground, covered his red nose bridge and roared angrily. Just as he was about to get up, a foot suddenly appeared on his back and slammed down hard. Bang! Goo! Zhuawei was once again lying on the ground. The huge force coming from his back squeezed out all the air in his lungs. His chest and back felt as if they had hit a rock, causing him to cry out in pain. Stop, stop. The shocked guards finally remembered that they had to help Zhuameng, but before they could rush forward, a sharp gaze swept across their bodies. All the guards were frozen on the spot by conditioned reflex, forgetting to move. Humph, Noah sneered, lowered his head, looked at Zhuameng, who kept screaming under his feet, and reminded him kindly. The future ruler of the Tokyo area was actually trampled under the feet of a lucky monster leader like me. Should I express my gratitude for your generosity in offering up your back? Chapter 119. You. Zhuo Wei's face turned ferocious. He struggled to get up, but the foot on his back was like a heavy mountain, pressing down on him. Not only was he unable to get up, but even his face had turned purple. Noah gradually exerted force on his foot that was stepping on Zhuo Wei's back. At the same time, he bent down as if Zhuo Wei was a step to step on. He smiled faintly. I thought the first person to aim a gun at me would be the chrysanthemum Tendo. I didn't expect it to be you, a character I've never heard of before. Hearing this, whether it was the bodyguard or the guards of the sacred abode, they all woke up. As the guards of the sacred abode, when they were responsible for protecting the Holy Son of Heaven, they couldn't avoid contact with the chrysanthemum Tendo. It could even be said that they were the subordinates of the chrysanthemum Tendo. Therefore, the guards of the holy abode who were present all knew about this. The man in front of them, although only the leader of a civilian organization without any official position or status, was a character that even the chrysanthemum Tendo wanted to deal with. Moreover, he wasn't a character that could be dealt with just because they wanted to. At the thought of this, the bodyguard's eyes finally showed fear. The guards also looked at each other, and some of them shrank back. You, what do you want to do? The bodyguard mustered up his courage and shouted. This is the sacred abode. We are the guards of the Holy Son of Heaven. If you attack us, we can sue you. Huh? Noah pretended to be surprised. But aren't you the future ruler of the Tokyo area? You should directly convict me, right? Why do you need to go through the trouble of suing me? The bodyguard was speechless for a while, and began to regret in his heart. Of course, what the bodyguard regretted was not that he provoked Noah. Even in such a situation, the bodyguard still hated Noah to the bone. The bodyguard regretted that he didn't directly cripple Noah's hands and feet at the beginning and then talk to him. At that time, the position of the one who stepped on and the one who was stepped on would definitely be reversed. Of course, it never occurred to Zhuo Ren that a mere captain of the Holy Abode's guards would not be able to pull off such a sneak attack. He had never thought that even if he were to launch a sneak attack, the success rate would not be guaranteed. Unfortunately, not to mention this world, even the magical world where Noah was originally from didn't have a miraculous item called the Medicine of Regret. The truth was that Zhuo Ren was currently being trampled under Noah's feet, and there was nothing he could do. At that moment, Zhuo Shaoren could only say in an extremely aggrieved manner. You. What do you want? I don't want anything. Noah looked around, then looked at the bodyguard below him and sighed. I just wanted to see what kind of tricks you're up to, and what kind of tricks you're going to play. In the end, is this what the so-called holy residence guards are like? This time, not to mention the bodyguards, even the faces of the surrounding guards became incomparably sullen. Why am I saying so much to you? Noah seemed to have lost interest and retracted his foot. If you know what you're capable of, who you can offend and who you can't, you wouldn't be like this. After that, Noah directly walked past Zhuo Ren who was lying on the ground and walked out. The guards who were originally in a surrounding formation suddenly scattered as if they were running for their lives, allowing Noah to walk out of the encirclement and to the other end of the corridor. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Only then did Zhuo Ren, who had climbed up from the ground and clutched his chest, let out a resentful voice. His eyes were full of venom as he stared in the direction where Noah disappeared. Don't let me get the chance. When Noah walked out of the holy residence, the sun had already set halfway to the west, dyeing the sky dark red. Noah stretched his back, the bones in his body letting out crisp and pleasant sounds, but he didn't know how many sighs he had let out today. Noah thought that after he kicked down the bodyguard, they would yell and scream at the top of their lungs, attracting the attention of the other people in the holy abode and even the Holy Son of Heaven. Then, they would complain that Noah injured them in the holy abode. Based on the situation at that time, even if the Holy Son of Heaven was there and saw the scene of Noah stepping on Zhuo Ren, he would choose to believe Zhuo Ren's words and question Noah. For this, Noah was already prepared and had a way to deal with it. Who knew, in the end, not only did Zhuo Ren not do so, but he also acted as if he didn't know what to do even if he was stepped on. He didn't think that he would kick an iron plate when bullying others. Noah easily saw through it. It wasn't that Zhuo Ren didn't want to fight back with the most effective method, but that Zhuo Ren didn't think that there would be such a method in that situation. It seemed that the holy residence's guards led by Zhuo Ren were worse than Noah thought. Perhaps they performed well on a daily basis, but in a sudden situation where unexpected things happened, their ability to deal with it was at the level of a layman. That princess has been using this kind of guards until now? How did she survive all these years? Noah let out such a sigh from the bottom of his heart, lifted his feet, and walked forward. However, at this time, a bicycle circled around the fountain in front of the holy residence, and entered Noah's field of vision, making Noah stop in his tracks. The reason for stopping was very simple. The person who rode the bicycle around the fountain was a young girl who was about the same age as Yan Zhu and Xia Shi. Her silver gold hair was shining under the red light of the setting sun and fluttering in the wind. Because of the eye-catching hair color, Noah noticed this young girl. On the seat of the bicycle, the young girl wore a loose pajama and slippers on her feet. Her conspicuous long hair was in a messy state, her mouth was half open, and her eyes were half squinted. She looked like her soul had left the sky as she stepped on the bicycle, causing the bicycle to sway. This obviously strange state was one of the reasons why Noah noticed this young girl. Looking at the other party circling around the fountain and swaying, Noah couldn't help but start to worry. She won't suddenly fall, right? This thought had just risen from Noah's heart, when the young girl who was staggering on the bicycle seemed to have been blown by a cold wind. She shuddered, and the movement of her feet increased in speed, causing the already swaying bicycle to sway even more, and it even rushed out. Moreover, in front of the bicycle that suddenly accelerated out, Noah stood there. Looking at the bicycle that was rushing towards him, Noah was stunned, and immediately dodged, avoiding the bicycle that was making a gag sound as it rushed past him. At the same time, Noah also reached out and grabbed the young girl who was sitting on the bicycle. She looked like she didn't understand what was going on. She was stunned there, and he pulled her out of the bicycle. The swaying bicycle didn't slow down, and directly rushed to the side of the guardrail. Bang! In the sound of a collision, the child-sized bicycle fiercely hit the guardrail, and flew in an extremely exaggerated arc, drawing a parabola, and heavily smashed into the ground not far away. Bang! Another muffled sound, and the poor bicycle fell apart on the ground, becoming a pile of parts. Ah! Looking at this scene, before Noah could say anything, the young girl in Noah's arms blankly opened her mouth. My bicycle, you still care about your bicycle? Noah, who was holding the young girl, didn't hesitate to scold her. If I didn't hold you, you would be like your bicycle, becoming a part of the pile of parts. The young girl was stunned again, and looked up blankly at Noah. After a while, she blankly smiled. A hero saving a beauty, Noah was speechless. Chapter 120. Sit down obediently and don't move. On the bench beside the fountain, Noah skillfully tidied up the clothes of the dazed girl. Then, he stroked the girl's long silver gold hair that was over her shoulders. Using some unknown technique, he smoothed out the messy hair. The young girl sat there obediently. She had a dazed expression on her face as if she had not woken up yet. However, she did not move and allowed Noah to manipulate her. She even exclaimed in amazement. Amazing, you can fix her hair with your hands. Because I have a group of annoying children who are around your age and need me to take care of them. After a while, I got used to it and learned this skill. What a convenient skill. I think so too. Thanks to this, I've been completely pestered by the group of children. I have to help them tidy up their hair every day. While they were chatting, Noah also stopped what he was doing. At this moment, the young lady's clothes were no longer as sloppy as before. Her elegant shoulder-length hair had also become smoother. In addition, the young lady had a small face that didn't lose out to Yan Zhu and Xia Shi. She looked exceptionally adorable. That is, if you ignore the dazed expression on the girl's face. Looking at the heavy eyelids of the girl in front of him, who looked like she could fall asleep at any time, Noah couldn't help but pull her face. At such a young age, don't tell me you learned to stay up all night just to watch anime or something? Children should go to bed early. No. It's not like that. Even though Noah was pulling her face, the little girl was still in a daze as she mumbled incoherently. I'm just used to moving around at night, so it's very tiring during the day, then. That's right. No. Okay. Unknowingly, Noah used the tone he used to talk to the children in Fairy Tale. Daytime is the time for children and even normal people to move around. Nighttime is used for sleeping. Moreover, sleeping at night also plays a very important role in resting the body. That's something that daytime can't compare to. You have to quickly correct this bad habit of yours. Otherwise, I'll have to talk to your parents. Hearing this, the young girl looked at Noah in a daze. Only when Noah felt a little strange did she smile foolishly. This is the first time someone cares about me so much. I feel so happy. Is this the first time someone cares about me so much? Noah frowned. Doesn't your family care about you? In response to this question, the girl only smiled and changed the topic as if she was just brushing him off. Big brother is so gentle. You. Seeing that the girl seemed to have something she didn't want to say, Noah didn't say much even though he was very concerned. That was her privacy. Therefore, Noah changed the question. So, what's your name? Me? For some reason, the girl's delirious eyes flashed with obvious hesitation. However, in the next second, she seemed to have given up on something and spoke. My name is Tina, Tina Sprout. Tina? Noah patted Tina's little head. Looking at this little girl with a dazed face, a trace of doting appeared in his heart, causing his expression to soften involuntarily. Tina, you're not a foreigner or a mixed blood, are you? Tina blinked her misty eyes and opened her mouth slightly, looking at Noah in a daze. Big brother is really amazing, you even guessed this. It's because the form of your name in the Tokyo area, or rather in this country, is an irregular form of name. Noah shook his head with a smile. In addition, your hair color is also very rare in this country, so most people would guess that you're a foreigner or a mixed blood, right? Is that so? Tina's eyelids drooped tiredly. She shook her head left and right, then she used her index finger to support her chin and slowly spoke. Then what's Big Brother's name? This. Noah was a little hesitant. In a way, Noah's name was actually not a name that could be casually used to introduce himself. As long as it was a person in the Tokyo area, even if it was a child, they would have heard of the name Noah Doria. This was because everyone knew that Noah Doria was the president of Fairy Tale, the shelter of the cursed child that everyone regarded as a monster. In the Tokyo area, most people were plundered generations, and people who greatly discriminated against the cursed child. Therefore, even if it was a child, when they were at home, they would be secretly instilled with thoughts like, Noah Doria is a big bad guy who raises monsters, you must not get close to him, otherwise you will be eaten by monsters, by the adults. Noah could not be sure that Tina was not a child who had been brainwashed by the hate-filled adults. If Tina was also instilled with such thoughts, then if Noah revealed his name here, it would definitely scare Tina, and it might even make her cry. Therefore, Noah subconsciously chose to hide it. Well, you can just call me Big Brother. Why is that? Tina narrowed her eyes and protested, but was ignored by Noah. Alright, Tina. Noah stood up, walked in front of Tina who was sitting on the bench, and patted her little head. I'm going back now, what about you? Do you need me to send you back? Tina stared blankly at Noah for a long time. After a long time, she squeezed out this sentence. Is Big Brother finally going to abandon me? Abandon? Noah was stunned. Why would I abandon you? Because Big Brother is going to leave, Tina said innocently. You're going to abandon Tina and leave? No, 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 didn't I ask you if you want me to send you home? Noah laughed bitterly. This counts as abandoning? Yes. Tina nodded heavily. It counts. Noah suddenly rolled his eyes. After a moment of distress, he said. Then I'll tell you my phone number, that way no matter where I go, you'll be able to find me, is that okay? Phone number? Tina was stunned. Seeing this, Noah shrugged and told Tina his phone number. Tina repeated Noah's phone number over and over again. After a while, she suddenly turned around and pulled out her phone from her pocket. Just when Noah was surprised that a 10-year-old child would carry a phone with her, in his pocket, Noah's phone rang. Hee hee. Tina turned around again, and gave Noah a crazy smile. I thought Big Brother gave me a fake number. Why would I do that? Noah was helpless. Although they only spent a short time together, Noah always felt that this little girl named Tina in front of him was always in control of his rhythm. No, it was more accurate to say that it was because Tina's own rhythm was too difficult to control, causing Noah to fall into Tina's rhythm and be pulled around by Tina. Today is a very happy day. Tina put away her phone in a leisurely manner before climbing down from the bench. She looked up at Noah with an adorable smile on her face. Big Brother, you can't lie to me. If I call you, you have to be able to be found by me at any time. If I'm free. Noah added. After all, adults have a lot of things to do. Big Brother is such a bad guy. Although she said this, Tina's face was always smiling, completely without the mischievous and naughty look that a child should have, appearing very precocious. Well. Noah scratched his head. Then do you need me to send you home? There's no need for that, I remember the way home. Tina cocked her head to the side before extending a polite salute toward Noah. I hope to see you again next time. After that, Tina ignored Noah, swayed her petite body, and walked out of the park where the fountain was. Noah stood in the same spot, watching Tina, until Tina's swaying figure disappeared from his sight. Then Noah turned around and left in the opposite direction. At this time, neither of them expected. This meeting was just the beginning. Chapter 121. Today's weather was unusually bright, as if even the gods were blessing the ruler of Tokyo, giving the entire Tokyo area excellent weather. Under the blue sky, on a road, a luxurious limousine drove forward at a leisurely pace. There was a car in front, back, left, and right of the limousine, protecting it in the center as it drove forward. In the middle of the limousine, Noah and Xingzi sat opposite each other. Xingzi sat in a very upright position on the car seat that was softer than a sofa and more comfortable than a bed. His holy face looked straight ahead, which was Noah. Noah didn't seem to notice that Xingzi had been observing him. He seemed to be sitting there casually, but his eyes were cast out of the window from time to time, sweeping the surroundings from time to time. It was very obscure. Xingzi, who clearly saw Noah's behavior, knew that Noah was not looking at the scenery, but was vigilant of the surroundings to prevent any accidents. This made Xingzi slightly surprised. It's really surprising. Noah looked at the Elysian child in confusion. What do you mean? As far as I know, President Noah has always been focused on the operation of Fairy Tale. Although he has obtained a police license, he has almost never carried out a police task, and he doesn't even have a partner. Xingzi exclaimed. But looking at you now, you don't seem to be very unfamiliar with guard tasks, right? Noah was slightly relieved, and he couldn't help but feel a burst of laughter in his heart. Indeed, for more than a year in the Tokyo area, Noah had basically put his heart and soul into the establishment of Fairy Tale. As for the work of a police officer, he had not carried out many tasks. Logically speaking, he should have no experience in escort tasks. It was completely normal for Xingzi to have such an accident. Unfortunately, no matter how smart Xingzi was, he couldn't have guessed that Noah didn't do guard tasks in this world, but in the other world, because of his work, he had already completed many guard-related commissions in Fairy Tale. Therefore, not only was Noah not unfamiliar with guard missions, but he was also very familiar with them. Of course, the sage son of heaven didn't know about this. However, Noah did not know whether to laugh or cry at the holy son of heaven's words. Since you know that I've never carried out any police mission and don't even have a partner, you still dare to hire me as a guard and put your life in my hands. What do you want me to say? Hearing this, Xing Tianzi smiled calmly. I just feel that guild leader Noah should be trustworthy. Am I trustworthy? This time, Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If I remember correctly, we have met less than 5 times so far, right? It has nothing to do with the number of times we've met. The Holy Son of Heaven didn't explain further. He gave Noah an unfathomable smile and said, "If you really can't figure it out, guild leader Noah, then just treat it as me being willful. It's the first time I've seen someone willful putting their life in danger. Should I say, as expected of the princess?" Noah rolled his eyes. "I really hope that when you talk to Chiwu Zhongshuan later, you can be willful and not be led by the nose by him. Regarding Chiwu Zhongshuan, I also have something to ask guild leader Noah." Xing Tianzi was silent for a while and said, "What kind of person is Chiwu Zhongshuan?" Hearing this, Noah paused for a moment. "Have you never met Chiwu Zhongshuan before?" "Yes." Xing Tianzi nodded seriously. "When it comes to Chiwu Zhongshuan, both guild leader Noah and Mr. Zhu Zhicheng have a face full of displeasure, so I'm very curious, what kind of person is this person?" After being asked this question, Noah rubbed his forehead as if he was having a headache. After organizing his words, he replied, "Let me tell you this, Chiwu Zhongshuan has called me twice. The first time was after Fairy Tale was established and became famous, and the second time was after the news of killing Scorpio's bullet was exposed." Noah looked into Xing Tianzi's eyes. "And do you know why Chiwu Zhongshuan chose to call me at these 2 times?" Xing Tianzi frowned and then shook his head. In this regard, Noah smiled fearlessly. "In the first call, Chiwu Zhongshuan wanted me to train all the cursed children in Fairy Tale into soldiers or even men of sacrifice. He wanted them to work for him under his banner." Xing Tianzi's face changed instantly. Noah acted as if he didn't see Xing Tianzi's change in expression and continued. "And the second time, Chiwu Zhongshuan asked me to provide him with all the information related to the bullet, and even provide him with the bullet. For this, he was willing to pay any price." This. Xing Tianzi immediately smelled the unusual information from Noah's words. "Do you understand?" Noah sighed aloud. "Chiwu Zhongshuan wants all of the cursed children in Fairy Tale to become his soldiers and men of sacrifice. He also wants to obtain bullets at all costs. His goal is definitely not as simple as dealing with primitive animals. This person's ambition is very terrifying, and he is like the celestial chrysanthemum prime minister. In order to achieve his goal, he will use all means. That's why I hate him. I hate him very much." Speaking of this, Noah solemnly said to Xing Tianzi, "No matter what, this person is definitely not a good person. Take it as a piece of advice. Listen to me, if you want to communicate with him, you have to be careful." "I understand." Xing Tianzi clenched his lace-gloved hand and nodded solemnly. "Thank you very much for your advice, President Noah. Please don't leave my side. Don't worry." Noah's pair of deep eyes flashed with a bright light. "At least, with me here, you don't have to worry about your own safety." Looking at Noah's pair of deep dark eyes and listening to Noah's unwavering words, Xing Tianzi clenched the hand on his chest. In that position, a heart was beating at a much faster rate than before. The meeting place with Chiwu Zhongshuan was in a super tall hotel with more than 86 floors. After the war with primitive animals, the land of all countries in the world was occupied by primitive animals, causing the available land area to be greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, it was necessary to build extremely tall buildings in an area to accommodate a large number of people. Therefore, after the introduction of the law that provided for the preferential treatment of fixed assets tax for vertical expansion of buildings, a large number of super tall buildings rose from the ground in various areas at lightning speed. Even in the Tokyo area, buildings comparable to the height of mountains were already everywhere. And the hotel in front of them was said to be on par with the embassies of various regions. It was often used as a secret base by important officials. In here, perhaps, one could meet a famous official in 1 or 2 rooms. Moreover, they might be discussing some things that others were not allowed to know. That was not necessarily the case. Xing Tianzi and Qi Zhongshuan's meeting place was on the top floor. It was not so much a room in the hotel, but rather a private observatory specially set up on the top floor of a high-rise building. Noah and Xing Tianzi, who walked out of the elevator, saw the man almost immediately. The man in a suit stood up from the sofa and looked back, exuding a wild aura. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Xing Tianzi." As he said this, the ambitious man named Qi Zhongshuan slowly revealed a dangerous smile that made people's hearts palpitate. It was like a lion with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow people at any time. This made Xing Tianzi realize the visitor was not friendly. Chapter 122. Oh. It seemed that Qi Zhongshuan had only just noticed Noah's existence. He raised his eyebrows as he looked over. "Isn't this the little brat from fairy tale?" As soon as he said this, Xing Tianzi's expression was somewhat serious, not to mention Noah's feelings. Undoubtedly, the ruler of the same area as Qi Zhongshuan was right in front of him. However, Qi Zhongshuan only greeted Xing Tianzi and started talking to a guard. This clearly showed that Qi Zhongshuan really didn't take Xing Tianzi, who was too young, seriously. Noah glanced at Xing Tianzi's serious expression, smiled indifferently, and said to Qi Zhongshuan, "Are you very surprised to see me here?" "I'm more surprised that you're doing this kind of bodyguard job." Qi Zhongshuan's pair of beards slightly curled up as he snorted coldly. "Why didn't you join me along with your fairy tale? You should know that what I can give you is definitely much better than any bodyguard job." Such a blatant statement once again made Xing Tianzi realize that the visitor was not friendly. On the contrary, Noah smiled disdainfully. "Then you should also know that I don't care about what you give me at all." "Humph." Qi Zhongshuan glared at Noah. "Just like the previous 2 times on the phone, your tone is still so arrogant. You're just a mere police officer. You choose the way to treat people based on their status. You're really worthy of being called an old thief." Noah's tone also became harsh with Qi Zhongshuan's words. "If I remember correctly, the strongest police officer can even control the entire world's military situation. Old thief, in today's world, status is already outdated. What matters now is strength. If you don't even understand this point and run out, you'd better hurry back to your Osaka area." Qi Zhongshuan's eyes were filled with real anger as he stared at Noah. Noah, on the other hand, didn't show any signs of weakness as he stared back with a smile on his face. In the end, Qi Zhongshuan withdrew his gaze and chose to retreat. Noah shrugged. He caught a glimpse of Holy Sun's nervous expression as he clutched his laced gloves. He was dumbfounded. "Don't mess around, Lord Holy Son of Heaven, this is just the opening. The real show is yet to come. If you are so nervous now, what will happen later?" However, this was not Xing Tianzi's fault. In the past, when the Elysian children participated in meetings, the big shots would more or less care about their reputation. They wouldn't be like Noah and Qi Zhongshuan, openly cursing each other. Everything had to be done properly. Therefore, Elysium had never encountered such a situation where she would start off with such harsh words. As a young girl who had just reached adulthood, it was natural for her to be nervous. With no other choice, Noah could only cover for Elysian Son of Heaven. "I'm only here as a guard today. President Qi Wu, shouldn't you ask my target to sit down?" Qi Zhongshuan shook his chin and sat down. He gestured to Elysian Son of Heaven to sit. Noah secretly shook Elysian Son of Heaven's hand, which startled Elysian Son of Heaven. She took a deep breath and suppressed her nervousness. She returned a grateful look to Noah and sat down opposite Qi Zhongshuan. Noah also moved behind Elysian Son of Heaven and stood there motionless like a real bodyguard. Just when Elysian Son of Heaven and Noah thought that Qi Zhongshuan was going to start the meeting, Qi Zhongshuan once again looked at Noah and said, "What do you think about the matter from last time?" "The matter from last time?" Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. "Are you referring to the bullet matter? If you don't want your fairy tale to become my minion, I won't force you. But the bullet is different." Qi Zhongshuan's eyes became like a wolf's, full of aggression and greed. It's a super weapon that can threaten Stage V gastronomic animals. I must get my hands on it. Once again, Chiwu Zhongshuan did not hide his inner thoughts and made a blatant declaration. Elysian Son of Heaven, who had no experience in dealing with situations like this, was a little uneasy. He chose to remain silent for the time being, thinking about how to take back the initiative. Noah crossed his arms. Since he did not sit down, he could look down at Chiwu Zhongshuan from above and said sarcastically, "If you only want to deal with gastronomic animals, then you don't have to get your hands on the bullet, do you?" "I must get my hands on it," Chiwu Zhongshuan said firmly. "It's because I want to deal with more than just gastronomic animals that I must get my hands on it." Elysian Son of Heaven could no longer remain silent. "Do you want to use it to deal with humans? What's wrong with thinking about the world after all gastronomic animals are expelled?" Chiwu Zhongshuan said matter-of-factly. "Lord Elysian Son of Heaven, I don't believe that you don't understand. In today's world, we must quickly regain our territory from the unprecedented disaster of being persecuted by gastronomic animals. Only then can we obtain the right to rule this world. We should also make this our goal." Chiwu Zhongshuan showed his naked ambition and looked straight at Elysian Son of Heaven. "For this reason, I will eliminate all those who hinder me and those who disobey me." The implication of these words was already a declaration of war against the heads of state of other regions. This made Elysian Son of Heaven speechless for a while. In this world, there were many people who were full of ambition and wanted to make a move on other regions. However, Chiwu Zhongshuan was probably the only one who would be so straightforward about his intentions. Even in the Osaka region, I often hear that Tokyo's Elysian Son of Heaven is a very kind and peace-loving person, Chiwu Zhongshuan sneered. "However, Lord Elysian Son of Heaven, please listen to my advice. You, who are unwilling to even see blood, are not suitable to be the ruler of this chaotic era. As a head of state, you are not qualified." Elysian Son of Heaven's slender body trembled violently. Instead of anger, there was sadness in her eyes. Obviously, Chiwu Zhongshuan's undisguised malicious words had really pierced the heart of this holy princess. When Chiwu Zhongshuan saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curved into a disdainful smile. Even the ruler of Tokyo was still too young after all. At this moment, Noah, who was standing behind Elysian Son of Heaven, suddenly spoke up. "I heard that President Chiwu Zhongshuan has suffered many assassination attempts in the Osaka region due to excessive taxes, right?" "That's right." Chiwu Zhongshuan looked at Noah with a suspicious expression. "Then what's the problem? Isn't that enough to explain the problem?" Noah seemed to be talking to himself. He did not even look at Chiwu Zhongshuan. "I don't know. In history, has there ever been a tyrant who did not care about the lives of his people and lasted until the end? What kind of problem is that?" Chiwu Zhongshuan glared at Noah. "The entire Osaka region is mine. I am also the one who is supporting the entire Osaka region. As long as I continue to support the Osaka region, those insects who can only hide in the dark will not be able to do anything to me. Without me, they will all die. In this chaotic era, only a true tyrant can rule the world." Chiwu Zhongshuan stood up and shouted exaggeratedly, pointing at Elysian Son of Heaven. "And you, Elysian Son of Heaven, too much gentleness and kindness will only harm you. You will not be the tyrant of this chaotic world. There is no doubt about that." Elysian Son of Heaven wanted to say something, but Noah pressed on his shoulder. Then, Noah said indifferently, "You are right. This kind-hearted princess is not suitable to be the ruler of this chaotic era." Elysian Son of Heaven stared blankly at Noah, as if he could not believe that he would say such a thing. Chiwu Zhongshuan revealed a victorious smile. However, his smile froze when he heard Noah's next sentence. "Then, what about the era of peace?" Chapter 123. Peaceful Era? The Holy Son of Heaven and Chiwu Zhongshuan were stunned. As a ruler, those who are unqualified are not the Holy Son of Heaven. Noah raised his eyes and looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan. The real unqualified ruler seems to be you, President Chiwu. Don't tell me you're trying to say that a ruler who knows how to conform to the will of the people is a truly qualified ruler? Chiwu Zhongshuan laughed disapprovingly. In the end, you're just a policeman. In this chaotic era, what can a guy who blindly conforms to the will of the people achieve? Didn't I tell you that if a chaotic era doesn't work, what about a peaceful era? Noah curled his lips and smiled. President Chiwu, you've just said that there's nothing wrong with thinking about the future of the world after all the proto-god animals are banished. However, you're only thinking about how to become the ruler of the new era. Have you not considered what the world will become by then? Chiwu Zhongshuan stared at Noah without saying a word. You're right. The country that can take back its territory from the proto-god animals the fastest is likely to be the overlord of the world after the proto-god animals are expelled. However, when that time comes, without the proto-god animals as an enemy, humans will usher in a peaceful era. Noah sneered. In the near future, the world will once again return to human rule, and the era of peace will descend. The citizens who have been oppressed by you and overtaxed by you will begin to recall that the world's rulers once had to comply with the will of the people. The people should also have their own rights. So, please tell me, Noah said somewhat uninterestedly. President Chiwu, even if you become the overlord of the world by then, what kind of ending will you usher in? Chiwu Zhongshuan's face sank bit by bit as he listened to Noah's words. In the end, it became extremely ugly. The Holy Son of Heaven also understood what Noah meant, and the light in his eyes slowly recovered. In front of the two regional rulers, Noah did not hesitate to mock Chiwu Zhongshuan. Let me tell you something. By then, the people will revolt. No matter how many times they will revolt in that peaceful era. As a result, the rulers who don't conform to the public will all be ousted and become real losers. I will not become a loser. Chiwu Zhongshuan raised his head abruptly and roared as if he could not bear it any longer. What right do you have to say that I will be the loser? Because I know you're just daydreaming. Noah looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan with pity. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you must understand that even if you can become the ruler of this chaotic era, you will still be eliminated when the era of peace arrives. If you are proud of what you are doing now as a qualified ruler, then let me be clear. Undoubtedly, I will tell you for free. Noah's voice was like a sharp arrow, piercing Chiwu Zhongshuan's heart. People like you can only hope that this chaotic era will continue endlessly. Otherwise, you are destined to be a loser. Only people like the Holy Son of Heaven, who yearn for peace, will be promoted to the position of ruler by the people who also yearn for peace. If you are a qualified ruler of the chaotic era, then the ruler of Tokyo will be a qualified ruler of the peaceful era as long as he survives until the arrival of peace. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you are not qualified to look down on the Holy Son of Heaven in Tokyo. Noah said indifferently. Because as long as the Holy Son of Heaven survives, he is destined to succeed. Even if you survive until the end, you are destined to fail. Shut up. Police. Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes were red. He reached into the inner pocket of his suit and felt for a very small pistol. Gotcha, however, as soon as Chiwu Zhongshuan put his hand into the inner pocket of his suit, a gun suddenly appeared in front of him. The black muzzle directly met Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes at a very close distance, causing Chiwu Zhongshuan's movements to freeze. President Noah. The Holy Son of Heaven finally realized what had happened. He stood up abruptly and grabbed Noah's hand. However, Noah was completely indifferent. He raised his own gun and aimed at Chiwu Zhongshuan in front of him. His eyes and expression were extremely calm. This made Chiwu Zhongshuan calm down. He let go of his hand that was in the inner pocket of his suit and looked at Noah contemptuously. Even if you're from the Tokyo region, you're pointing a gun at me. Unless the Tokyo region protects you at the cost of causing a war between the two regions, I can sentence you to death. As he said this, Chiwu Zhongshuan looked at Noah with more and more contempt. Do you understand? President Noah. The Holy Son of Heaven was also a little anxious. He held Noah's hand and kept gesturing for him to put down the gun. Unfortunately, Noah was still indifferent. He even curled the corners of his mouth, as if he was laughing. You still don't understand, Chiwu Zhongshuan. I really didn't expect you to have such a narrow view of the big picture. Does the Tendo Chrysanthemum Prime Minister really think that you are difficult to deal with? What did you say? Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression became ugly again. Say it again. I'll say it a few hundred times, but it's still the same. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you are really stupid to the extreme. Do you believe that if I kill you here now, the Osaka region won't have time to go to war with Tokyo? Noah said with a sigh. As a dictator, it's easy to provoke enemies. Chiwu Zhongshuan, there must be many people in the Osaka region who don't get along with you, but who are also ambitious, who have been eyeing your position, right? Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression changed instantly. If you die here, the result will be that in order to compete for the position you left behind, the people eyeing your position in the Osaka region will begin to attract their own supporters. Among them, the most effective way is to expose what you have done in the past, arouse the indignation of those who have been oppressed by you in the past, and increase their popularity. This time, it was Noah's turn to look at him with contempt. At that time, not only will I not cause a war between the two regions, but I will also be molded by those people as a hero who got rid of evil for the people. Do you understand? Bastard. Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression became distorted as if he had been stabbed in a sore spot. From the moment you embarked on the path of a dictator, you were destined to fail. Noah looked directly at Chiwu Zhongshuan. I can already imagine what kind of infamy you will leave in the history books in the future. Can you imagine? Mr. Ruler of the Osaka region. Bastard. 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 Chiwu Zhongshuan's body began to tremble. His gaze was fixed on Noah as if he wanted to poke two holes in his body. He was obviously extremely angry. President Noah. Elysian Son of Heaven finally spoke in a tough voice. I should start the meeting with President Chiwu. Noah took a deep look at Chiwu Zhongshuan and smiled. He put away his spear and stood behind Elysian Son of Heaven. Sage Tianzi quietly folded his hands in front of his suit, as if nothing had happened. He looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan calmly. President Chiwu, can we get to the point? Chiwu Zhongshuan knew that Sage Tianzi was giving him a way out. He took a few deep breaths, forced himself to calm down, and said expressionlessly. I'm sorry, President Sage Tianzi. I'm not feeling well today. Can we postpone the meeting for another day? I understand. Sage Tianzi nodded, not surprised at all. I look forward to the next conversation with you. Chiwu Zhongshuan stared coldly at Noah for a long time, then said this. I will not fail. After saying this, Chiwu Zhongshuan turned around and walked out without looking back. Sage Tianzi looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan's back until he disappeared from the scene. Noah looked in the direction that Chiwu Zhongshuan left with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Chapter 124. Night. On the limousine back to the holy residence, Elysian Son of Heaven, who was sitting opposite Noah, kept his hands crossed and placed on his knees elegantly. He looked out of the window with a melancholy expression. Seeing Elysian Son of Heaven like this, Noah sighed. Are you still thinking about Chiwu Zhongshuan? Elysian Son of Heaven slowly withdrew his gaze from the window and looked at Noah, shaking his head. I was just thinking about what kind of method I should use to get along with that person. Get along with Chiwu Zhongshuan? Noah looked at Elysian Son of Heaven, then laughed and waved his hand. Impossible, one of you is a typical idealist, the other is the most selfish individualist. No matter what, you won't get along. That's the truth, so I'm quite distressed. Elysian Son of Heaven looked at Noah with some admiration. If I had the confidence and vision like President Noah, who didn't back down even when facing the president of Chiwu Zhongshuan, I wouldn't need President Noah to stand up for me in today's meeting. Hearing this, Noah curled his lips and looked away. I only stood up because I was unhappy with that old bastard, I didn't mean to stand up for you. Is that so? Even Elysian Son of Heaven could feel that most of Noah's words were insincere, so he couldn't help but smile. I didn't expect President Noah to have such a cute side. What nonsense are you talking about? Noah glanced at Elysian, son of heaven, and warned. I'm not throwing a tantrum, and I don't have this so-called cute side. If you continue to make fun of me, I'll leave. I didn't mean to make fun of you. On the contrary, I really admire President Noah. Elysian, son of heaven, stopped smiling, and his beautiful face looked a little sad. Only today did I truly understand why Mr. Kikuchi Ching couldn't even deal with a commoner with no identity, background, status, or capital. You even had a vexed and sullen expression from time to time. You are truly formidable. Elysian, son of heaven, looked at Noah with a little sadness. I even think that if Tokyo was ruled by President Noah, it would be more prosperous than it is now. Stop joking. Noah frowned. Don't tell me that you've really lost your confidence because of that old man who only knows how to dream? I'm just telling the truth. Elysian, son of heaven's tone started to become inexplicably anxious. It can be seen from today's incident with the president of Chi-Wu. President Noah, you are a very talented person. Not only did you have the ability to operate Fairy Tail under the obstruction of Mr. Kikuchi Ching, but you also forced the president of Chi-Wu to a point where he almost had no way out. In addition, you have a far-reaching view and a long-term view of the overall situation. If you can help me, the Tokyo area will definitely be more prosperous than it is now. I can imagine what kind of new scene Tokyo will be with your help. Elysian, son of heaven, clasped one hand in front of his chest and said excitedly. So, please, Mr. Noah, please come to my side and help me. Help me govern the Tokyo area. As soon as his voice fell, the entire limousine was filled with an extremely oppressive silence. Noah's expression had already returned to the most common calmness after guessing Elysian, son of heaven's intention. He quietly looked at Elysian, son of heaven, without speaking. But it was this expression that made Elysian, son of heaven, understand Noah's thoughts. Why? Elysian, son of heaven's voice was full of depression. Why are you unwilling to agree to my request? The reason is very simple. Noah raised his hand, supported his chin, and looked out of the window. I still haven't found a reason to protect Tokyo, to protect those who are only left with hatred and can even treat a group of children cruelly. Elysian, son of heaven, suddenly opened his mouth slightly, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. He closed his eyes and lowered his head. Elysian, son of heaven, knew that in fact, the way to change Noah's mind was simple, but also difficult. It was more difficult than Chi-Wu Zhongshuan wanting to rule the world. Noah's fundamental purpose was to allow the cursed children to live like ordinary children. They would not be discriminated against, and they would be able to live a happy life. So, as long as Elysian, son of heaven, could do this, he believed that at that time, Noah would definitely not mind borrowing Elysian, son of heaven's power. Unfortunately, this method was very easy to say, but to put it into practice, was it possible to achieve it? Perhaps, in the distant future, when the plundered generation, that lost their loved ones to the primitive animals all died, the situation of the cursed children would become much better. However, as long as the primitive animals virus remained in the cursed children, and there was a possibility that the primitive animals could turn into monsters at any time, the cursed children would not be accepted by others. Because, no one would want to get close to a person who could turn into a monster at any time. Even if there was no hatred, people would still have feelings for the cursed children. That was fear. Elysian, son of heaven, who understood this, could only be silent. He didn't turn to Noah again, and his eyes revealed an extremely complicated struggle. Tap, tap, tap. Without knowing when, water droplets suddenly fell from the sky and hit the car window, causing a burst of soft and loud sound. It gradually drizzled outside, blurring the scenery outside the car window. Inside the car, the atmosphere between Noah and Elysian, son of heaven, had changed from the initial relaxed tranquility to a complete oppressive silence, and the night rain became irritating. And at that moment, Noah heard a voice all of a sudden. Buzz, 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 buzz. It was the sound of insects flapping and rubbing their wings. Chapter 125. Screech. The limousine lost its balance and skidded sideways on the road, making a sharp braking sound that echoed through the rainy night. Ah! The driver was not prepared for this sudden danger at all. He desperately turned the steering wheel and screamed unbearably. Holy Son, who was sitting in the back seat, buried his head in Noah's arms. His body was nestled in Noah's arms, and his face was full of pain. He closed his eyes and groaned bitterly. In the entire limousine, Noah was the only one who maintained his balance and calmness even as the limousine slid sideways. He hugged Elysian's son and reached out his hand through the gap leading to the front seat to grab the driver's collar. Then, Noah spun around and kicked the top of the limousine with all his might. Bang! In the muffled sound, the roof of the limousine exploded from the inside out, creating a huge hole. Whoosh! In the next second, a figure jumped out of the limousine and shot out from the hole in the roof of the limousine. Bang! In an instant, the expensive limousine crashed into a hard wall in front of him without slowing down, smashing the front of the limousine into pieces. Dong! Then, the entire limousine exploded and turned into black iron in a hot flame. It was calcined at an extremely high temperature. Screech! At this moment, the cars that had been protecting the limousine all braked and stopped. Bodyguards were run and the other Holy Son of Heaven guards rushed out of the cars, shouting meaninglessly as they rushed over. At the same time, Noah, who was holding Holy Son in one hand and the unconscious driver's collar in the other, landed steadily on the ground. His body was already wet from the rain. Looking up, Noah looked at the distant roof of the tall building where the red light had just flashed. Combined with the sniper attack here, it was not difficult to guess that the red light that flashed on the roof was the muzzle flame of the sniper rifle. In other words, the assassin who attacked Holy Son was on the roof of the building. Just as this thought rose in Noah's mind, the red light flashed again on the roof of the building. Gotcha! Almost at the same time, Noah pulled out his gun and closed his eyes. He pointed the gun in his hand in the direction of the tall building and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! In the sound of the gunshot, the black bullet cut through the sky, rubbing against the atmosphere and shooting toward the building. Along the path of the bullet, a sniper bullet was fired from the direction of the tall building. It flew straight from the direction of the bullet. The two bullets suddenly collided with each other fiercely. Clank! In the crisp sound, the scene of two bullets colliding with each other, which was impossible in reality, appeared in the air. The two bullets that collided with each other rebounded in different directions. This is a lie, right? On the top of a distant building, the girl holding an anti-tank sniper rifle clearly saw this scene through the scope. The dark red eyes of the cursed child, which was a typical phenomenon of releasing the power in the body, showed a strong shock. The building where the girl was at was more than a kilometer away from her target. To be able to snipe a target from a kilometer away, and with such accuracy, the girl's sniping ability was simply unbelievably strong. It was also because of this that the girl was highly valued by her instigator. Originally, the girl thought that she was the only person in the world who could do this. But now, the scene that appeared in front of the girl's eyes completely shattered this thought in her mind. Moreover, compared to her, the opponent's ability was obviously better. Not only did she also snipe from a kilometer away, but she also accurately neutralized the girl's sniper attack by canceling it out. This could no longer be described as 100% accuracy, but a real, godly skill. Bang! Just when the girl fell into a brief moment of shock, with the species factor of the protozoan virus in her body, the girl, who especially enhanced her vision and hearing, heard an extremely soft sound that was absolutely impossible for ordinary humans to hear. That was the sound of a gunshot. The girl's dark red pupils suddenly shrank, and a fatal sense of crisis surged in her heart, causing the girl to turn her head away without hesitation. The second bullet that came from the other side directly cut through the air, accurately hitting the scope of the sniper rifle that the young girl's eyes were still fixed on a second ago. Bang! The sniper rifle's scope in the girl's hand was directly penetrated by the bullet, and exploded into a pile of fragments. Bang! Not only that, after the bullet that was terrifying enough to match the anti-tank sniper rifle in the girl's hand exploded the scope, the force carried by the bullet directly shook the sniper rifle in the girl's hand away. Ah! The girl let out a small cry of pain. The sniper rifle in her hand was shaken away, and she was also flipped over by the impact of the force. She rolled a few times from the top of the tall building before coming to a stop. Ugh! The girl quickly got up from the ground. Ignoring her trembling hands from the shock, she picked up the sniper rifle not far away and rushed into the entrance of the tall building's roof as if she was escaping, and rushed into the stairs. Bang 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 bang. In that instant, 4 bullets with the power of the anti-tank sniper rifle pierced through the air in a sharp sonic boom, and landed heavily on the 4 positions of the path that the girl took when she rushed into the stairs, exploding 4 holes on it. If the young girl hadn't rushed to the staircase at the first moment, then the 4 bullets would have landed on the young girl's petite body. Ha! 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 At the top of the stairs, the girl holding the anti-tank sniper rifle leaned against the wall, gasping for air. Her back was already wet from the tension and crisis just now. Her crimson pupils were still filled with lingering fear, and the hand holding the anti-tank sniper rifle was still trembling. The girl looked outside the roof and saw the broken scope and the 4 holes on the ground. Her hand holding the rifle tightened. What a terrifying person. On the other side, Noah, who was holding a gun and using his excellent sensing ability to detect the position of the sniper on the roof of the tall building, fired all 6 bullets in his gun and stopped shooting. Slowly opening his eyes, Noah looked at the tall building, and his dark eyes narrowed slightly. That scent, if I'm not wrong, it must be the cursed child. Because the distance was too far, even with Noah's excellent sensing ability, he could not accurately identify the sniper's scent in the chaotic city. However, the feeling of power overflowing from the release of the protozoan virus in his body was indeed the aura of the cursed child. The sniper was a cursed child, Lord Elysium. Not far away, the group of people finally came to Noah's side. Elysium seemed to have not recovered from the panic. Her delicate body was trembling, and she tightly grasped Noah's clothes. Her face was a little pale. Noah patted Elysium's back, pressed on Elysium's slender and smooth shoulder, and gently pushed her into his arms. It's okay now, don't be afraid. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Elysium reacted and gently nodded a few times, but her movements were very weak. Obviously, because of the series of crises just now, Elysium was a little exhausted. Noah Dole. Seeing the unusually weak Elysium in Noah's arms at this moment, Elysium's eyes widened slightly, and he was somewhat agitated. Hurry up and let go of Lord Elysium. Noah didn't even look at Elysium. He felt Elysium's trembling body in his arms, and he kept patting her back, waiting for her to calm down. Elysium's roar of jealousy was still ringing, and it didn't calm down for a long time. Chapter 126. Tokyo District 1, Holy Residence, here. Noah handed a cup of freshly brewed hot tea to Holy Son of Heaven, who was sitting on the sofa. Calm down. The Holy Son of Heaven seemed to feel embarrassed for being so scared, but he still reached out his hand and took the hot tea that Noah brewed. Thank you, but I've calmed down. Thank you for worrying. With that said, Holy Son of Heaven's performance did indeed return to the sacred and inviolable appearance of the past, which made Noah feel a little relieved. Sitting down on the sofa opposite Holy Son of Heaven, Noah folded his arms, and after a moment of silence, he asked, "Is this the first time you encountered an assassination?" Holy Son of Heaven first nodded, then thought for a moment and shook her head. "I haven't been in office for long. Although it's not that I haven't encountered unexpected situations in the past, it's the first time I was directly attacked." "Is that so?" Noah felt slightly relieved. Even if she was the ruler of the Tokyo area, Holy Son of Heaven was only a 16-year-old girl. It was natural for her to be afraid of being assassinated by unknown people. Seeing that Holy Son of Heaven could calm down so quickly and return to her original state, Noah was somewhat impressed by this girl's temperament. However, he still had to say what needed to be said. "Although it's a bit inappropriate to say this directly in front of you, now is not the time to care about that kind of thing." Noah pointed at his arm with his finger, as if he had given up on something, and sighed. "I have to say, Lord Holy Son of Heaven, your guards are all useless." Holding the cup full of hot tea, Holy Son of Heaven was in a state of speechlessness. Let's not talk about why our route back to the holy residence was exposed and why the snipers were ambushed there. Let's talk about the process of the ambush. Their performance was a bit incompetent. Noah made such a comment without holding back. They couldn't rush to the side of the target in the first time, couldn't organize effective countermeasures in the first time, couldn't arrange a retreat in the first time, and couldn't calm down in the first time. They looked like a panicked layman. Lord Holy Son of Heaven, I'm really curious how you can live until now. Sage Son of Heaven lowered his head and listened quietly. When Noah stopped, he smiled bitterly. In the peaceful era of the past, the task of protecting the safety of VIPs was usually the job of the police. Now, although I have a guard team, it is still an immature organization that has been in operation for less than 10 years. Naturally, it is impossible for me to be that familiar with it. What the Holy Son of Heaven meant was that as a group of guards, they were still lacking in experience in protecting Zhuoren and the others. This was mainly because in the past, as the Holy Son's bodyguards, they only existed as a wall to block the media. They didn't really have the opportunity to face assassinations and other dangers. As a result, this unbearable situation of the guards was created. Unfortunately, that was not enough to explain the problem. Putting aside the lack of experience, not only did they not reflect on the sniper incident after the incident, they even kept pushing the blame to each other. What's going on? Noah was getting a little impatient. Lord Holy Son of Heaven, you are not an idiot. I don't believe that you don't know the morals of your own guards. So, can you please not help them out of pure kindness? Sage Son of Heaven was speechless. Evidently, Noah had hit the nail on the head. However, there was a reason why Noah was so upset. After the sniper incident was resolved by Noah, Sage Son of Heaven regained his composure. The group of people rushed back to the holy residence and started a short discussion about the sniper incident. The focus of the discussion was naturally how Sage Son of Heaven's return route was known to the sniper and how he was ambushed. The plan for the Holy Son of Heaven's bodyguards was basically drawn up by Noah. It also included the details of the route. Therefore, only Noah, Sage Son of Heaven, and the other guards of the holy residence knew the route that Sage Son of Heaven would take. There was no doubt that the route had been leaked. Then, there was only one problem that could be explained. There was a traitor in the Holy Son of Heaven's bodyguards. After all, it was impossible for Sage Son of Heaven to leak the bodyguard plan that was closely related to his own safety. Therefore, it could only mean that there was a traitor in the holy residence. However, a group of brainless guards led by Zhuo Meng intended to shift all the blame to Noah. The reason was that he was the one who knew the plan the best. They didn't know where to base it on. In the end, these people were naturally all blocked by Noah's understatement. If it wasn't for me, Sage Son of Heaven would have died under the first sniper bullet. Are you trying to say that I wanted to harm Sage Son of Heaven, so I leaked the bodyguard plan, and at the same time, I also tried to save the target's life from the hands of my own accomplices? This is completely meaningless. To Noah's surprise, when the rest of the guards had nothing to say, the bodyguard Zhuoren did not seem to be convinced at all. Therefore, after a period of reflection, the nature of the meeting changed completely. Bodyguard Zhuo of Heaven's bodyguards glared at Noah with resentment and stubbornness. At the same time, he used ridiculous excuses like, "You have to believe me," and, "There is definitely something wrong with this guy," to convict Noah of a crime. In the end, even Sage Son of Heaven felt that bodyguard Zhuo of Heaven was being unreasonable. He took Noah back to his room. Of course, Noah only found out from bodyguard Zhuo that the room where he played the piano was Sage Son of Heaven's bedroom. Seeing that Sage Son of Heaven was silent, Noah couldn't help but rub his temples. When is the next meeting? Sage Son of Heaven was startled, then shook his head. It hasn't been decided yet. Is that so? Noah nodded calmly. The next meeting, I will redraft the bodyguard plan, but this time, I hope that only you and I know the entire plan. This. Sage Son of Heaven suddenly hesitated and said uncertainly. Do you mean that only the two of us will go to the next meeting? If he couldn't reveal the bodyguard plan to the others, it meant that he couldn't bring anyone else to the next meeting. Otherwise, the bodyguard plan would still be leaked. What's wrong? Noah looked straight at Sage Son of Heaven. Is there a problem? Sage Son of Heaven pondered for a while, then nodded heavily. I understand, President Noah and I will go to the next meeting. Only then did Noah's expression ease up a lot, and the atmosphere at the scene began to relax. President Noah. Sage Son of Heaven seemed to want to break away from the heavy topic. He smiled calmly and suddenly made a suggestion. Can I ask you to play a song for me? Play a song? Noah was stunned. Don't you know how to play the piano? I'm not very familiar with the piano. Sage Son of Heaven stood up from the sofa and walked to the front of the piano. He sat down and stroked the keys with his slender fingers. Although it's embarrassing to say this, the process of learning the piano wasn't very smooth, and my playing often wasn't very smooth either. I think I know why your playing isn't smooth. Noah inadvertently glanced at Sage Son of Heaven's hand on the piano keys, and then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Your fingers are too hard on the keys, that will make the entire playing not smooth. With that, Noah walked behind Sage Son of Heaven, bent down, and put his hand on the back of Sage Son of Heaven's hand as if he was hugging him. Don't use too much strength, just use this amount of strength. However, Sage Son of Heaven didn't hear Noah's words. This was because when Noah bent down, Sage Son of Heaven's body stiffened, and a slight blush appeared on his face. Noah, who was completely used to being in close contact with girls, didn't notice the current situation and tilted his head in confusion. What's wrong? No. Nothing, then try according to what I said. Oh. Okay. Chapter 127. President. Xiaoshi walked into Noah's room with a pile of documents in his hands. Noah, who was sitting in front of his desk and drafting the security plan for the second meeting, looked up with a slightly helpless expression. Xiaoshi, you didn't knock or ring the doorbell. Why did you just walk into my house? This is a small matter, you don't have to worry about it. Xiaoshi said lightly and ignored Noah. This is a small matter? He muttered, then walked in front of Noah and put the documents in his hands on the desk. President, during the Holy Sun sniper incident, the analysis of the sniper bullet taken from the scene is out. Hearing this, Noah gathered his spirit and flipped through the documents Xiaoshi brought. After analysis, the sniper bullet taken from the scene is a .50 caliber Browning heavy machine gun bullet. According to the president's description, the distance between the sniper's hiding spot and the Holy Sun's location is 991 meters. Seeing Noah flip through the analysis report, Xiaoshi also used his unique cold tone to summarize the main points of the analysis report. But when it came to the sniper's distance, Xiaoshi had a rare hesitation. However, President, are you sure that the sniper was really sniping from that tall building? Noah, who heard Xiaoshi's hesitation, looked up from the analysis report in his hands and looked at Xiaoshi. Is there a problem? No, there's no problem, but I'm very surprised. Xiaoshi shook his head and explained. President, do you know how high a sniper's requirements for the external environment and the sniper himself are when sniping? Noah recalled what he learned from the books and nodded. When a sniper is sniping, there are many factors that can affect the sniper's accuracy. For example, when a sniper bullet was traveling, the temperature, humidity, angle, and air pressure of the surrounding environment, as well as the arc of the bullet's trajectory, would all affect the final hit rate. If the sniper is sniped from a high place, the high-pressure wind will affect the sniper's vision, body, and even the bullet's trajectory. In addition, the sniper's heart is also beating, the sniper needs to breathe, and the muscle tissue may relax or tighten at any time, which causes the sniper's hand to shake and so on. The final conclusion is that the farther the sniper is, the more difficult it is to snipe. For example, if a sniper's sniping ability is assumed that every 100 meters the sniper's distance increases, the difficulty of hitting the target doubles. After 500 meters, every 100 meters the sniper's distance increases, the difficulty of hitting the target exponentially. Therefore, after reaching a distance of 1 kilometer, if a sniper wanted to hit his target once, it could be said that he had a godly skill. 2 hits required luck. As for 3 hits, it was definitely because the sniper was blessed by the gods. According to the president's description, the sniper who assassinated Elysian Son of Heaven's first sniper hit is obviously 100%. Without the president, Elysian Son of Heaven would definitely be dead. Although the second sniper was neutralized by the president, without the president's intervention, Elysian Son of Heaven would still be hit. Xia Shi tilted her head, and a puzzled expression appeared on her cute face. To be able to snipe from a distance of 991 meters with a 100% hit rate, President, is this sniper really an ordinary person? Noah did not answer Xia Shi's question, but after thinking for a while, he asked. Then, if the opponent is the cursed child, can it explain why the sniper's sniping ability is so strong? Personally, I think that this will make the truth even more confusing. Xia Shi opened her cute big eyes and looked straight at Noah. At the very least, I've never heard of any species that can increase a sniper's accuracy to 100%. That's true, Noah smiled bitterly, closed his eyes, pointed to his forehead with his finger, and suddenly said. Is there any news from Chiwuzhongshuan? Chiwuzhongshuan? Xia Shi almost immediately understood the meaning of Noah's words, which made her blink her beautiful big eyes. President, do you suspect that the sniper was sent by Chiwuzhongshuan? Not suspect, but sure. Noah curled his lips. After all, that old thief has already declared to Elysian Son of Heaven that he wants to rule the world and occupy all the territory of this country. Although Xia Shi did not know the specific situation, she could roughly guess what was going on, so she immediately asked very obediently. Do you want to monitor Chiwuzhongshuan? No need. Noah didn't even think about it and directly waved his hand to reject. Since that old guy dares to make such a blatant declaration, it means that he has long been prepared to be suspected. Even if we find someone to monitor him, we definitely won't be able to find out anything. Then, President. Xia Shi raised her small face and her eyes met Noah's eyes. What are you going to do? What should I do? Noah raised his hand and supported his chin. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate space and cast on a certain behind-the-scenes mastermind. The corners of his mouth slowly rose. Although the real target is not me, since we already know that it was the old thief who did it, then, if we don't give him a little reward, he really thinks that he can continue to dream. Xia Shi's face was suddenly full of confusion, but seeing that Noah seemed to have some ideas, she didn't continue to ask and helped Noah organize the documents on the desk. At this time, a pleasant ringtone came from Noah's phone on the desk. Noah picked up the phone without looking back, but when he saw the name displayed on the caller ID, a look of surprise appeared on his face. President? Xia Shi pulled on Noah's sleeve. What's wrong? Nothing. Noah patted Xia Shi's head and then picked up the phone. The next moment, a listless, very soft voice sounded from the other end of the phone. Is it Big Brother? The people in Fairy Tale all called Noah the president. Except for the people in Fairy Tale, the rest of the people would basically just call Noah by his name, at most adding a prefix or a pet name like emoji. The only one who would call Noah Big Brother was a girl he recently met. Tina. Noah called out in a probing manner. It's me, Big Brother. Tina's soft voice had a little joy. Great, Big Brother answered my call. I thought Big Brother would directly hang up or pretend not to know me. Why would I do that? Noah more or less felt a little powerless. Hey, Big Brother. Tina seemed to ignore Noah's question and said such a sentence. Next, I'm going to go shopping. And then? I'm a person. And then? I'm still a child. A child who can't resist even if some adults with special hobbies do bad things to him. A child who can't see the green light at any time, run across the road, and be run over by heavy iron vehicles. Okay. Noah weakly interrupted Tina's overly euphemistic words. You just want me to take you shopping, right? I didn't say that. Tina replied. But if Big Brother must do this, I have no choice but to comply. After all, I'm just a child. I understand. Noah sighed out loud. Tell me the meeting place. On the other end of the phone, Tina suddenly let out a satisfied hum, making Noah feel helpless, but also couldn't help but have a doting feeling. Therefore, Noah didn't see it. On the side, Xiaoshi's wise big eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Chapter 128. On the bustling street, Noah looked at a little girl who was happily humming a tune and walking in front of him. He couldn't help but smile bitterly as he looked at the little girl who was happily humming a tune and the other little girl who was walking beside her with a calm expression. Yanzhu, Xiaoshi, what are you two doing here? Yanzhu held Xiaoshi's hand and walked in front of him in large strides while calling out in high spirits. I'm here to play. Isn't this good? Xiaoshi was like a little adult, looking straight ahead. It's rare that the president is free before the second meeting of the Son of Heaven, and you want to go shopping. Can't you bring us along? It's not that you can't. Noah lowered his shoulders. It's just that I'm not alone. There will be another person coming with me later. Then introduce her to us. Xiaoshi said with a, it's not a problem, look. Didn't the president say that even we have the right to make friends? That's true. Noah's mouth twitched. But I feel that it's not appropriate to use this sentence at this time. President, don't be awkward. Yanzhu twirled around in a lively manner. She was obviously in a good mood. It's more fun with more people. I won't mind. I'm not worried about whether you'll mind or not. Noah sighed softly. I'm worried that they'll mind. Now that we're here, are you going to chase us away? Xiaoshi glanced at Noah and said. We're children. You really did hear the contents of the phone call. Noah had no choice but to instruct him. Since you're here, remember, don't call me president. Don't expose our true identities. Got it. Only then did Xiaoshi show an obedient expression, but that was only because he had achieved his goal. We'll be careful. But. Yanzhu tilted her head, looking like a squirrel gnawing on a chestnut. It was very cute. If we don't call you president, then what should we call you? Well. Noah scratched his head. I don't have any special requirements. Just order whatever you want. Hearing this, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi's eyes lit up. Lord Husband. This was how Yanzhu addressed him. Rejected. Noah didn't even hesitate for a second and retorted. Master. This was what Xiaoshi had decided on. Do you want me to be treated as a scumbag? Noah almost knocked Xiaoshi on the head. Darling. This was the second time Yanzhu decided to address her. What's the difference between this and the first one? Noah raised his voice involuntarily. Dad. This was the second time Xiaoshi decided to call him that. You're determined to make me be treated as a scum, aren't you? Noah's legs went soft and he almost fell to the ground. Why can't you call me something more normal? In the end, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi seemed to be enjoying themselves. They used all sorts of names to challenge Noah's bottom line. No matter how much Noah loved these two girls, he had the urge to lock them up in a dark room for 2 days to reflect on their actions. Amidst their banter, the three of them arrived at the gathering place. At first glance, Noah saw the sleepy girl. Today, Tina didn't wear her sloppy pajamas. Instead, she wore a small dress and a small jacket. Her long silver blonde hair was neatly combed, and it shone beautifully under the sunlight. Unfortunately, Tina's adorable face still had a sleepy expression on it, as if she had just woken up. Her eyelids were blinking, and her little head was nodding, as if she had fallen asleep while standing. Seeing this, Noah face-bombed. Could it be that this girl has been playing games and watching TV all night? While he was talking to himself, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi had already arrived in front of Tina. They looked at Tina, who was nodding her little head as if she had fallen asleep. The two of them looked at each other and circled around Tina. Oh. There's someone like Rentaro who has mastered the special skill of sleeping standing up. Although I know people like this exist, this is the first time I've seen a real person like this. Won't she suddenly collapse while sleeping like this? Maybe if Yen Zhu pokes her, she'll collapse. Looking at how Yen Zhu was about to poke Tina, Noah hurriedly stepped forward to stop her. I say, it's very rude of you to treat someone you've just met. As if she only reacted to Noah's voice, the sleepy Tina slowly raised her head and rubbed her sleepy eyes. When she confirmed that it was Noah, a sleepy smile appeared on her face. Good morning, brother. The weather today is really good, it makes me feel especially energetic. Liar. Noah, Yen Zhu, and Xiaoshi all replied at the same time without any hesitation. Only then did Tina notice Yen Zhu and Xiaoshi. She stared blankly at the two of them. After a while, she was confused. Did brother kidnap 2 children on the way here? No matter how you think about it, you shouldn't have thought of this possibility first. What is your brain made of? Noah complained. Besides, I don't have the ability to kidnap children, do I? As soon as he said this, Yen Zhu and Xiaoshi immediately looked at Noah strangely. You don't know how to kidnap children? Then what about the piles of children in Fairy Tale? Let alone Yen Zhu and Xiaoshi, if Mira and Lisana were here, they would definitely say something. After all, Mira and Lisana were kidnapped by Noah when they were young and entered Fairy Tale, all in all. Noah patted Yen Zhu and Xiaoshi's little heads and pushed them forward a step. You two, introduce yourselves. I'm called Lan Yuan Yen Zhu. Yen Zhu was the first to raise her hand. Then, she suddenly turned around and hugged Noah. I'm his fiancé. Noah staggered and couldn't stand still. However, this wasn't the end. I'm called Qinsho Xiaoshi. Xiaoshi said with an icy expression. Then, he hugged Noah from the other side, forming a symmetrical position with Yen Zhu. I'm also his fiancé. Noah looked up at the sky. In a way, he had already given up on explaining. As for Tina, her mouth was slightly agape as she stared blankly at the blissful Yen Zhu, the expressionless Xiaoshi, and the speechless Noah. After a long while, a silly smile appeared on her face. Big brother is really amazing. Is this the only conclusion you've come to? Noah didn't have the strength to retort. I'm just once again convinced of Big Brother's gentleness. Tina still appeared to be in a daze, but the smile on her face didn't seem as fake as it used to be. If you don't have a truly gentle heart, you won't be able to make so many children like Big Brother. That's right, that's right. Yen Zhu immediately nodded in agreement. Then, she jumped in front of Tina and put her hands on Tina's shoulders as if she had met a bosom friend. I've decided, they'll be my friend from now on. F.O., friend? Tina was stunned. It was as if she couldn't believe that someone would say such a thing to her. I'll be Ru Tina then. Before Tina could react, Yen Zhu patted her flat chest with a haughty expression. Let this concubine take you shopping. Then, Yen Zhu grabbed Tina, who couldn't react in time, and ran off into the distance with a giggle. Wait. Noah and Xiaoshi were startled and hurriedly chased after them. The 4 of them disappeared into the crowd together, creating a cacophony of laughter that lasted for a long time. Chapter 129. Women were able to show enthusiasm that was completely different from usual when they were shopping. Noah had heard this from other people more than once, and he had also seen it in books more than once. However, it wasn't until today that Noah realized what kind of level the so-called passion that was completely different from usual had reached. 5 hours. For a full 5 hours, with Noah as the leader, Yen Zhu, Xiaoshi, and Hina, the 3 10-year-old girls, did not rest for even a second. And in these 5 hours, they went to countless places. Clothing store. Jewelry store. Jewelry store. Supermarket. Shopping center. Game center. In these places, as long as they saw them while shopping, Yen Zhu would happily lead everyone to run, using the most physically exhausting way to play for 5 hours. In the end, the four of them walked through the entire commercial street. This was the incident that allowed Noah to clearly understand the true meaning of women's enthusiasm for shopping is completely different from usual. Originally, even if he went shopping with 3 little girls who were only about 10 years old, with the ability of the 3 little girls, there shouldn't be much that they could buy even if they went through the entire commercial street. Unfortunately, these 3 little girls around the age of 10 were clearly not ordinary little girls. First of all, Yenju was an initiator. Ever since she partnered with Rintaro and joined the Tentong Civilian Guard Company, Yenju has been receiving an excessive amount of pocket money from the Tentong Civilian Guard Company in the form of employment. Compared to a child, Yenju has received an excessive amount of pocket money from the company. Therefore, even if there was no way to squander as much as she wanted, Yenju's purchasing power was still enough to buy everything she liked. If the 2 poor bastards, Muggeng and Rintaro, saw Yenju squandering money like this, they would probably faint from fright. Furthermore, although Xiaoshi currently had no plans to continue using the identity of an initiator to form a police partnership with other people, he basically did not receive any pocket money from the Directorate General who treated the initiator as a tool. However, after joining Fairy Tail, Xiaoshi's net worth had become much richer than the average child. There was no other way. Xiaoshi, who was calm and collected, had sufficient knowledge and wisdom, and had an IQ of over 210, helped Noah too much. If Fairy Tail was described as a large company, and Noah was described as the chairman of this large company, then Xiaoshi was equivalent to a capable secretary who took care of the chairman's daily life. She really helped Noah solve a lot of problems. For such a meritorious person, Noah could not give Xiaoshi a sufficient salary. Therefore, Xiaoshi became a little rich woman who was richer than Yenju. As for Hina, although Noah did not know what Hina's background was, he was fully aware of Hina's big nerves. Speaking of which, someone who looked like she was about to fall asleep and casually threw a pile of expensive clothes into the river, would her nerves not be big? Therefore, Noah sincerely felt that Hina was very likely a rich young lady who escaped from some rich family, and did not care about these little things. Maybe that was the case. Just like this, as if he was the bodyguard of 3 rich kids, Noah accompanied Yenju, Xiaoshi, and Hina for almost half a day. Compared to himself, it was a rather interesting and uncomfortable day. Phew, taking advantage of the time when the girls ran into an underwear store, Noah quietly left, and sat on a bench in a small stall opposite the store. He held a bottle of fruit juice that he bought from the stall, and took a sip while breathing heavily. Undoubtedly, I did not use much energy. Why do I still feel tired? Just as he said this, a soft and lazy voice came from beside Noah. So Big Brother was hiding in a place like this? Noah was slightly surprised, and after he recognized who it was from the voice, his shoulders slumped. How did you find me so quickly? Hina sat beside Noah without him noticing, and after hearing Noah's words, she used her finger to touch her chin and laughed foolishly. I followed Big Brother's scent to find you. Hee hee. Noah laughed dryly. Do you think I would believe that you have mastered this kind of special skill? That. Hina hesitated for a moment, and carefully answered. Because of love? Even you are hesitating about the answer. Can you please not say it out loud like it is a matter of course? Noah felt even more tired, and raised the bottle of fruit juice in front of Hina, and asked. Are you thirsty? Do you want a sip? Have a sip. Hina stared blankly at the bottle of fruit juice that Noah raised in front of her, or more accurately, the bottle of fruit juice. After a while, her cheeks turned red, and her eyes sparkled. Indirect kiss, Noah did not clearly hear Hina's mumbling. What did you say? Nothing. Hina smiled inexplicably happily, and took the fruit juice from Noah's hand. Thank you, Big Brother. However, just as she took the fruit juice, Hina's hand seemed to have slipped, and the fruit juice in her hand slipped and fell to the ground. Ah, Pa, Hina just let out a small cry of surprise, and a hand suddenly reached out from the side, and caught the fruit juice that fell to the ground. Hina opened her sleepy eyes, and slowly looked at Noah, who reached out to catch the fruit juice with a bitter smile on his face, and blinked her eyes. "Big brother, this bottle of fruit juice seems to have escaped from my hand. Why didn't you first consider that you didn't hold it properly?" Noah was almost defeated by this sleepy girl, and he could only raise the fruit juice and feed it to Hina's mouth. A look of surprise flashed across Tina's face for a split second before a blissful expression appeared on her face. She took a sip of her juice, and just as Noah was about to move the opening of the juice bottle away, she leaned forward on her own accord. "More." Looking at Hina, who leaned forward with half her body, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth slightly, like a baby bird begging for food, Noah could not think of a reason to refuse. So, when Noah came back to his senses, the fruit juice in the fruit juice bottle in his hand had already been finished by Hina. Hina, who used her sleeve to casually wipe her mouth, said with a sigh, "Today was a very happy day." Hearing the same words that Hina said when they first met, Noah did not know why, but he was very concerned about it. "Don't say it like you didn't have a happy day." Noah could not help but say this. "You can also be with your friends, right?" "Friends." Hina was silent, and then she shook her head. "I don't have any friends." "What are you talking about?" Noah frowned, and then relaxed. "Didn't Yenju and Xiaoshi say that they want to be your friends?" "Yenju and Xiaoshi?" Hina looked at the store across the street, and the smile on her face began to fade. "No." Noah was stunned. "Yenju and Xiaoshi are good kids." At this moment, Hina's expression was a little sad. "But I am a bad kid." Silence suddenly fell. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, a loud ringtone came from Hina's pocket, and Hina's expression froze. She hurriedly took out her phone, hung up the phone, and jumped down from the bench. Before Noah had a chance to react, Tina had already turned around. "Sorry, big brother, I have to go." After saying this, Tina ran out of the room. "Wait." For some reason, Noah subconsciously called out to Hina. Hina stopped and turned around, and her face showed a very distant smile that could not be ignored. "I hope to see you again, big brother." After saying this, Hina turned around and rushed into the crowd. Noah stood up and looked in the direction that Hina disappeared, and an indescribable feeling emerged in his heart. Intuition told Noah, the time to meet Hina again will come soon. Chapter 130. A Bad Child? On the way back to Fairy Tale, Noah's mind was filled with Tina's matter. Even if no one specifically reminded him, and Tina did not specifically tell Noah anything, Noah could faintly feel that something was wrong with Tina. This child seems to be someone with a lot of stories. They had only met twice, and Tina was a very strange person in all aspects, but Noah just couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of concern for Tina. It was not that he was curious, but Noah really wanted to know what secrets this little girl who seemed to be sleep-deprived all day long had. It was just that Noah always had a feeling. If he did not care about this mysterious little girl, he would definitely miss something. It was because of this feeling that Noah was very concerned about Tina's matter. Although it was just a feeling, Noah trusted his own feelings very much. Not to mention other things, Noah's superhuman senses, in fact, in the end, could be considered as a feeling similar to a sixth sense. Moreover, before coming to this world, Noah had inexplicably trusted his own feelings more than once, and in the end, Noah's feelings did not disappoint him. Therefore, Noah felt that it was better for him to pay a little attention to this matter. The next time we meet, I'll ask a little bit of questions. After making up his mind, Noah quickened his pace and rushed in the direction of Fairy Tale. Under Yen Zhu's suggestion, Xiaoshi seemed to want to take a look at the place where Yen Zhu worked, which was the location of Tiantong's Civil Guard Company. Therefore, the two of them did not follow Noah back. After entering the outer area, Noah walked alone in the surroundings full of ruins and decayed buildings, which would make timid people tremble in fear. With clear footsteps, he rushed forward step by step. Duh. Duh. The sky suddenly darkened, and thick layers of dark clouds filled the air, and small drops of rain fell. If it were an ordinary person, perhaps he would have started to look for a place to take shelter from the rain in a panic. However, Noah was still walking in the rain as if nothing had happened. He didn't care about his wet body at all. After all, unlike normal people, Noah had once spent a full 4 years in the deep mountains and forests in order to fully control crush. At that time, whether it was windy or rainy, Noah would still persevere in his training every day. Moreover, he had not been sick for a long time, so over time, as long as the rain was not too heavy, Noah would almost never deliberately avoid it. As for the problem with his clothes, he could just go back and wash it. Any problem that could be solved was not a problem. Ignoring his wet hair and clothes, Noah continued to walk in the direction of fairy tale. The sound of his footsteps had long been drowned out by the sound of the rain, and in the surroundings, only the sound of the rain continued to reverberate. In the wind pressure and rain that made people unable to open their eyes, Noah seemed to have turned into a fleeting shadow. With extremely agile movements, he narrowly avoided the obstacles in front of him at an astonishing speed, and with a whirlwind, he passed through the ruins. The tall building where the sniper was at was rapidly becoming bigger in Noah's vision. At this time, the muzzle flare on the roof of the tall building once again flashed by. Peng dash. Noah stomped his left foot heavily, causing the ground to crack. His body spun like a top as he dodged to the side at an extremely fast speed. Peng dash. The powerful sniper bullet made a sharp friction sound, and pierced through the ground there. Noah did not stop his body, and suddenly stomped his right foot, and dodged to the other side. Peng, 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 peng dash. Suddenly, a fierce sniper bullet pierced through the sky, and frequently fell in the place where Noah was a second ago. In the sound of explosion, the ground was blasted open one after another. Noah moved in a Z shape, and with a speed that could barely be seen, he nimbly dodged the incoming sniper bullets while approaching the tall building. At this time, Noah's heart gradually had a trace of astonishment. At this time, Noah's speed had already exceeded the speed that the human eye could capture. Logically, if the enemy was a sniper, he should have been anxious because he could not capture Noah's figure and position, but this sniper could accurately capture Noah's figure and shoot. This level of sniping ability, as Xiaosher said, was not something that ordinary people or even the cursed child could do. If a sniper with this level of sniping ability was always active in the dark, not to mention Noah, the life of the Holy Sun would be completely unguaranteed. I must take her down. Noah's eyes gradually became cold, and he looked up, looking at the tall building that was getting bigger and bigger in his field of vision, and the muzzle flashes of the sniper rifle constantly flashed on the roof of the building. The next moment, he suddenly stopped his footsteps and stopped. Immediately, a storm like magic burst out from Noah's body, and turned into a shock wave, blowing in all directions. Shatter dash. With a cold shout, Noah suddenly raised a hand, clenched his fist, bent his body, and heavily punched the ground. Boom! In a corner of the Tokyo area, a thunderous noise resounded throughout the sky. Chapter 131. It was only for a short moment. Only for a short moment, more than 50% of the people in the Tokyo area witnessed the light beam. It was a bright light beam that rose into the sky as if it could directly penetrate the sky. Dong! When the resplendent pillar of light disappeared, an earth-shattering sound reverberated through the skies of the entire Tokyo region. The sound reverberated through the air, causing the eardrums of many people in the Tokyo region to buzz as they cried out in pain. Rumble. Immediately, the ground shook violently, causing most of the residents in the Tokyo area who had not yet reacted to the brilliant light beam and the amazing noise, and it caused a lot of commotion. Originally, in this world, because of the primitive animals, humans lived a desperate life where they could die almost at any time. Now, the sudden strange phenomenon naturally made the people who were already exhausted to live abnormally frightened. They all thought that the end of the world was coming, and they were panicking. Fortunately, although the earthquake was violent, it did not cause casualties, and the duration was very short. In less than a minute, it stopped and returned to silence. The residents in the Tokyo area were panicking in every corner, causing a chaotic noise that could not be calmed down for a long time. At the same time, in one of the corners of District 39 outside Tokyo, gravel of moderate size fell from the air into the billowing smoke and dust, inciting a series of crashing sounds. Whoo! A gust of wind blew from a distance, taking away the smoke and dust here, exposing the scene in the smoke and dust to the air. Unfortunately, the scene exposed to the air was not so beautiful, and it could even be said to be bad. It was a huge pit with a radius of more than 500 meters, and there were countless large and small rocks rolling in it. If someone was at the scene, they could faintly see from this huge pit that among the rolling rocks, many ruins that should have stood here were completely turned into pieces of debris and mixed with the rubble in the huge pit. Plumes of smoke and dust still lingered in the huge pit, gradually dissipating with the wind. All that was left was a huge pit filled with rubble, the remains of buildings, and the remains of various items. It was as if it had been there since the beginning. If one looked carefully, one could find that in this huge messy pit, there was a small place that remained unchanged. In the center of the huge pit full of rubble, there was a place that could only accommodate one person standing. The ground there was still intact. With the intact ground that could only allow one person to stand as the center, the surrounding area was filled with rubble and debris of buildings and objects that seemed to have just collapsed. It was as if a powerful bomb had exploded, causing one to be shocked. In the only place that was still intact and could only accommodate one person, Noah remained kneeling on one knee and punching the ground with his fist. The magical power that surged around him like a white mist retracted back into his body bit by bit, returning everything to a peaceful state. Noah raised his eyes and looked around. Looking at the huge crater that was filled with rubble and the remains of buildings, he furrowed his brows slightly. Could it be that I've gone too far? Although he said this, Noah still stood up. The expression on his face did not change in the slightest because of the shocking scene that he had created. After all, this was the outer area. Except for the people living in fairy tale, it was basically impossible for anyone to be here. Even if it was completely destroyed, it would not cause any casualties. Secondly, after learning Crush 5 years ago, Noah would occasionally cause some damage. He was already used to seeing this kind of scene. In this kind of situation, Noah directly raised his head and cast his gaze to the front. The 3 tall buildings that should have stood there in a triangular shape had already disappeared. Under Noah's crush, they had turned into ruins and were still collapsing. Tightening the grip on the gun in his hand, Noah leaped and rushed into the sky. His body was like a phantom in the air. With a perfect parabola as a trajectory, he flew towards the ruins. He landed in front of the ruins, raised his foot, and walked into the ruins. Pieces of gravel were still falling from the broken walls, causing the crisp sound of collision to linger in the ruins of the tall buildings. Noah did not observe the surroundings. Instead, he relied on his extraordinary sensing ability to walk step by step to a position in the ruins. He had already sensed it. There, a weak presence was like a lone wolf hiding in the grass waiting for the opportunity to sneak attack. It was lurking there, and it was even faintly discernible. Some of the rapid breathing was undulating there. In more than a year, using his body and the strengthening of the gastronomic virus, Noah not only improved his physical strength, but also his vision, hearing, and so on. Because of the gastronomic virus and the species factor that the virus carried, Noah had also improved. Therefore, even if there was a short distance between them, Noah could still detect the other party's breathing and movements that were so subtle that they could not be detected. Moreover, although Noah deliberately held back when he used Crush, only destroying the environment and not targeting the sniper himself, falling from the top of a skyscraper of at least 50 floors, even if the other party was a cursed child, he should have more or less suffered some external injuries. He could tell from the other party's somewhat rapid breathing that he could not suppress. Therefore, Noah simply stopped and looked straight at the place where the sniper was, in the direction of a pile of gravel that could hide someone. "There's no point in continuing to play, come out." Noah's voice echoed clearly in the surroundings, lingering in the ruins. However, he did not know if it was Noah's illusion. Noah felt that when he spoke, the sniper hiding in the pile of gravel not far away seemed to have become more rapid, and even his breathing became chaotic. That feeling was as if the other party suddenly panicked or was shocked. Not long after, on the side of the pile of gravel, a small black shadow walked out. The crimson eyes and face that represented the power and identity of the cursed child were exposed together in Noah's eyes. In that instant, not only the owner of the crimson eyes, even Noah, who had always been calm and composed, had his pupils constricted. An uncontrollable fluctuation appeared in his eyes. The person who appeared from the pile of gravel was a little girl of about 10 years old. A 10-year-old girl wearing a one-piece dress, with a pair of crimson eyes, and holding an anti-tank sniper rifle in her hand. Of course, this was not the reason why Noah, who was good at controlling his emotions, could not help but be a little shaken. What really made Noah waver was the conspicuous long silver blonde hair that reached her shoulders and the pretty face that should be half asleep and half awake, but at the moment, it was as cold as ice. Noah personally wiped the sweat on that face during the day because the owner was tired while shopping. And the name of the owner of that face, Noah also clearly remembered it. Tina. Looking at Tina, who was also unable to maintain her calm, and her little face was full of confusion and uncertainty, Noah was in a trance for a moment, and his voice was as if it was squeezed out from his throat, and it was hoarse. "So, it's you, brother." Tina held the anti-tank sniper rifle and stepped back step by step. The expression on her face fully expressed her resistance to reality. You are the president of Fairy Tale, Noah Doria? Why? Why is it you?" Obviously, Tina did not know that the president of Fairy Tale, who she wanted to kill, was Noah. Rather, it could be said that Noah had intended to conceal his identity from the start. And just like Noah, Tina also deliberately concealed her identity. She hid her identity as the murderer of the Holy Sun sniper incident. Goo! There was a muffled sound in her throat, and Tina did not hesitate to throw away the anti-tank sniper rifle in her hand and rushed out of the ruins as if she was escaping. Wait! Noah suppressed the emotions in his heart and rushed out. Chapter 132. Tina's tiny figure dashed out from the ruins of the tall building that was surrounded by rubble of various sizes. Her crimson eyes were filled with frenzy. Why? 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 At this moment, all of the emotions in Tina's heart converged into these three words, and they continued to surge and surge. If possible, Tina hoped that this was just a huge joke. Unfortunately, a familiar voice sounded from behind her, mercilessly pulling her back to reality. Wait! Following the voice, a figure that was many times faster than Tina dashed out from the other side of the ruins. The distance between them was closing at a rate visible to the naked eye. "Do you think you can escape?" "Tina." Tina bit her lips and dashed out of the ruins without looking back. However, if she continued like this, it was only a matter of time before she was caught. Thus, Tina abruptly waved her hand, and as if she were tossing something, she hurled 3 palm-sized spherical objects into the air. Buzz buzz buzz. The palm-sized spherical object made a sound similar to that of a bug flapping its wings. A red light flashed from its body as if it had eyes, and it flew behind Tina. That is. Noah, who saw this scene, was stunned. After hearing the sound of insects flapping their wings, he immediately understood. The strange sound that was produced before the start of both the previous and current sniping was caused by these things. In other words, during the sniping against the Holy Son of Heaven and the sniping against Noah, these spherical objects appeared at the scene. And they were definitely not too far away. After the 3 spherical objects were thrown out by Tina, they flew towards him as nimbly as humans. Most likely, Tina was controlling them in some way. When she was sniping, she was also controlling them to get closer to the target. On top of that, both times Tina had performed godly sniping from a kilometer away, Noah had a conjecture in his heart. Is it because of these things that Tina's sniping ability is so terrifying? This question could not be answered for the time being. Because the three spherical objects that looked like crows pouncing on their prey drew 3 arcs and rushed in front of Noah. Just as Noah raised his gun and was about to shoot them down, the red light that depicted an eye-like pattern on the 3 spherical objects suddenly sounded like a countdown bomb. After a few DD sounds, they suddenly exploded. Bang! Scorching flames and smoke suddenly covered Noah's figure. The explosion also set off a shockwave, blowing the surrounding rubble and broken wall fragments in all directions like bullets. For a moment, Tina's footsteps paused for a moment, but after a while, she recovered and continued to run as if she was escaping. Unfortunately, this was the end of it. Following the sound of tearing through the air, a figure burst forth from within the flames behind Tina. His body was shrouded in dense flames, and he was like a flaming meteor as he hurtled through the air. In the blink of an eye, he had already brushed past Tina's side and was now directly in front of her. Tina only felt a hot wind blowing past her side, then, in a blur, Noah's figure, who was unscathed and only had some light smoke, was imprinted in her eyes. Therefore, Tina also saw it clearly. Standing in front of her, facing her, Noah, who seemed to be waiting for her to go over, had a face full of persistence and perseverance. That expression told Tina. If she didn't make it clear, Noah wouldn't let her leave. This made Tina, who wanted to escape from reality, put on an expression as if she was about to cry, and she let out a hysterical scream. Go away. While screaming as if she couldn't accept it, Tina also pulled out a sharp dagger and rushed in the direction of Noah. Noah looked at Tina's gradually approaching figure and stood there quietly, motionless. Then, Tina didn't even have the slightest thought of aiming, and she randomly stabbed the dagger in her hand at Noah. The sharp dagger flashed in an arc and swept past Noah's eyes. Immediately, the distance between the two was reduced to 0. Clang! The next moment, the dagger spun wildly, flew into the sky, and fell into the ruins full of rubble. Ugh! Tina's hand hurt, and the dagger flew out of her hand. At the same time, she also seemed to have been hit by something and took a few steps back. Gotcha! Before Tina could react, a mechanical sound was heard, and a gun was placed in front of Tina and pointed in between Tina's eyebrows. Tina's body froze on the spot. The muzzle of the gun in front of Tina was less than 5 centimeters away from Tina's eyebrows. Even if Tina was the cursed child, at such a close distance, it was impossible for her to dodge a bullet fired from a gun, even if it was a normal gun. What's more, the gun in Noah's hand was not a normal gun, but a modified revolver that was specifically enhanced for power and output. This time, she was a general. Tina stared blankly at Noah, who was standing in front of her with a modified revolver pointed at her eyebrows. Her body seemed to have lost all strength, and she slowly fell to the ground full of rubble. A sad smile appeared on her pale face. Big Brother is really amazing. This was not the first time Noah had heard Tina say these words. However, this time, this sentence caused an indescribable feeling to surge in Noah's heart. He took a deep breath and looked into Tina's eyes. Why do you want to assassinate the Holy Son of Heaven? Although there were countless questions in his heart, those questions were nothing compared to this. Because, it was precisely because of this question that Noah and Tina became enemies. Because. Tina smiled as if she had given up, but there was an indescribable bitterness in her smile. Because, this is Master's order. Master's order. Noah couldn't help but tighten his grip on the gun as he stared at Tina, who was sitting in front of him. Speaking of which, I haven't seriously introduced myself to Big Brother yet. Tina raised her head. Her expression was no longer the half-asleep half-awake look from before. Instead, it was like a bird of prey staring at its prey in the night. It was incomparably fierce. I'm an L-type initiator, a mechanized soldier of Next, ranked 98th by IP Tina Sprout. It was just a short sentence, but the information it brought to Noah was immeasurable. An L-type initiator. A mechanized soldier of Next. 98th by IP. These 3 pieces of information completely revealed Tina's identity. What Noah could find out was that Tina was not only a cursed child, but also an initiator who partnered with the police. Her IP was ranked in the top 100 by IP. As for what next was, Noah didn't know. However, the term mechanized soldier was very clear to Noah. In other words, not only was Tina an initiator, ranked in the top 100 by IP, but she was also a mechanized soldier like Leech's shadow Een that was modified by human scientists. While being a cursed child, Tina also had the ability of a mechanized soldier. No wonder she could squeeze into the top 100 by IP. However, this also made Noah understand. He probably wouldn't be able to get anything out of Tina. Looks like you've figured it out, big brother. I want to kill the holy heavenly disciple on the orders of my master, who is my partner and the one who modified me. You won't be able to find out who the mastermind is, as I don't know who gave the order to my master. I'm just a tool. Tina lowered her head as her hollow voice sounded. Big brother, please kill me. The scene was dead silent. Looking at Tina, who lowered her head with a hollow look in her eyes, Noah's eyes became silent as he slowly pulled the trigger of the gun in his hand. Bang! The gunshot was heard for a long time. Seju didn't even turn his head. Wait until after the meeting. But the secretary said hesitantly. This is President Noah's phone. President Noah? Sage Son of Heaven was slightly stunned. Then, he couldn't help but pick up the phone. Hello. There was a moment of oppressive silence on the other end of the phone. Then, Noah's voice sounded. Do you know where Chiwu Zhongshuan lives? Seju's body. Seju's, lords, Seju's that. President Chiwu should still be in the hotel, is that so? Noah said indifferently. His words made Holy Sun Tianzi completely stunned. Get the car ready. The second meeting is about to begin. In the limousine heading to the hotel, the Holy Son of Heaven, who was sitting in the seat, looked at Noah with a rare uneasy expression. Noah, who was sitting opposite Xing Tianzi, was looking at the scenery outside the window. Undoubtedly, there was nothing wrong with him, but he was emitting an aura that even Xing Tianzi could sense, which made the temperature in the car seem to have dropped a lot. The Sage Son of Heaven could only clench his fists tightly and ask anxiously. Excuse me, what happened? During the meeting, it was impossible for the Sage Son of Heaven to follow Noah's instructions and prepare a car for the second meeting with Chiwu Zhongshuan. Putting aside Chiwu Zhongshuan's problem, the issue that needed to be discussed in the meeting that had just been held could not be put aside until it was resolved. However, after the Sage Son of Heaven told Noah about it, Noah told him not to worry about it. Although the Sage Son of Heaven didn't know what was going on, he surprisingly chose to trust Noah's words. Thus, the Sage Son of Heaven followed Noah's instructions and put the meeting on hold. He contacted Chiwu Zhongshuan urgently and prepared for the second meeting. After the car was prepared, Noah appeared in front of the Elysian Emperor and acted like this. In addition, Noah suddenly proposed a second meeting and didn't even give the Elysian Emperor the protection plan. All these abnormalities made it impossible for the Elysian Emperor to not notice. After the Sage Son of Heaven's uneasy voice sounded for a while, Noah, who was looking at the scenery outside the window, turned around and looked at the Sage Son of Heaven. Not only did he not answer the Sage Son of Heaven's question, but he also asked such a question. What is next? Next. The Sage Son of Heaven was obviously surprised. He hesitated for a moment before replying. You already know about the existence of the New Human Creation Project, right? Noah nodded silently. It was something the Sage Son of Heaven told him. It was impossible for him not to remember it. In fact, in addition to the New Human Creation Project in Japan, there are also similar mechanized soldiers projects in the UA, Germany, and Australia. The Sage Son of Heaven explained. Chapter 134. I'm surprised. Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was surrounded by 4 guards, didn't wait for Noah and the Elysian sun to come over. He stroked his beard and put his hands behind his back as he spoke these words. I didn't know that the Xingzi of Yodo has the habit of waking people up late at night for a meeting. Hearing this, Xingzi's face was calm, as if he had already expected Chiwu Zhongshuan to ask such a question. He nodded slightly apologetically. I'm very sorry. The decision was made in haste. Please forgive me for my rudeness, President Chiwu. Of course, I won't pursue such a small matter. Although he said so, Chiwu Zhongshuan's face was full of displeasure, showing his mood at this time. Then, Xingzi, can we start the meeting between us? Xingzi nodded and was about to step forward, but a hand suddenly pressed on Xingzi's shoulder, stopping him. Xingzi was stunned, and even Chiwu Zhongshuan frowned. Under the gaze of the two supreme rulers of Yodo and Osaka, Noah, who was holding Xingzi's shoulder, stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan until Chiwu Zhongshuan's face became a little ugly. Then Noah spoke indifferently. Xingzi, how about leaving this meeting to me? President Noah? Xingzi was stunned, and he couldn't react for a long time. Obviously, he was extremely shocked that Noah would say such a thing. You? Chiwu Zhongshuan was also stunned for a moment, but after he reacted, he immediately laughed out loud, but there was a hint of anger in his voice. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to stand up and talk to me? Identity? Noah did not say anything. He just cast a sarcastic look at Chiwu Zhongshuan for less than a second, which reminded Chiwu Zhongshuan of the last time when they talked about identity. Chiwu Zhongshuan's face darkened even more. Chiwu Zhongshuan did not say anything. In this regard, Noah didn't say anything. While Xingzi was still in a daze, he stepped forward and stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan. I won't beat around the bush, Chiwu Zhongshuan, the mastermind behind the assassination of Xingzi is you, right? The air suddenly froze. Saint Child looked at Noah in disbelief. He had not expected Noah to say something like that in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan. Chiwu Zhongshuan's dignified face had long stiffened. The muscles on his face kept twitching. Obviously, he was caught off guard by Noah. In fact, as long as one was not a fool, one could more or less guess that the mastermind behind the assassination of the Holy Son of Heaven was Chiwu Zhongshuan, who wanted to occupy this country and become the overlord of the world. However, it would be foolish to question him directly in front of the ruler of a region without any evidence. The four guards around Chiwu Zhongshuan were already looking at Noah with disdain. Even the Holy Son of Heaven was a little anxious. Only Chiwu Zhongshuan, who had fully experienced Noah's strength in the last meeting, could not help but feel a chill in his heart. While secretly feeling that something was wrong, he glared at Noah. Officer, are you slandering me? Slandering? Noah approached Chiwu Zhongshuan step by step. Undoubtedly, his pair of dark eyes were very calm, but Chiwu Zhongshuan felt unusually oppressed and could not help but take a step back. You know best whether it's slander or not, don't you? You. The muscles on Chiwu Zhongshuan's face twitched again. Around Chiwu Zhongshuan, the four guards in black suits had already pulled out their guns, aimed at Noah, and shouted coldly in unison. Stop. If you come any closer, we'll shoot you for attempting to harm the regional president. Unfortunately, Noah did not even look at them. He still stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan and approached step by step. President Noah. The poor Holy Son of Heaven did not expect things to develop to this point. He stood there anxiously. The four guards of Chiwu Zhongshuan had anger and murderous intent in their eyes, and they directly pulled the triggers of their guns. Bang! In the simultaneous gunshots, 4 bullets pierced through the air and violently shot toward Noah, who was gradually approaching. However, almost at the same time, a faint sound broke through the air from Noah's body. Then, Noah's figure became somewhat illusory. The 4 bullets pierced through Noah's illusory figure. No. It was not just pierced. The bullets that penetrated Noah's illusory body seemed to be like a mortar that blew away the fog, directly hitting the figure in front of it. That was, impressively, an afterimage. Whoosh! Immediately, a gust of wind blew past the 4 guards who were shooting with their guns. The next moment, it turned into a figure and appeared in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan. Chiwu Zhongshuan was suddenly shocked and wanted to retreat, but the tie in front of him was grabbed by a hand and pulled forward. Ku! Chiwu Zhongshuan suddenly made a depressed sound, and his body was involuntarily pulled forward by the tie. Grand President. The 4 guards were shocked and screamed aloud. They put their guns in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was protected in the middle by them. Seeing Chiwu Zhongshuan being pulled up by his tie, they did not dare to act rashly and were a little flustered. Chiwu Zhongshuan, I'll make it clear to you. Don't expect me to show you any evidence. Noah directly grabbed Chiwu Zhongshuan's tie, pulled him up, and pulled him in front of him, and said sarcastically. Now that I have confirmed that you are the mastermind behind this, just like what I said last time, even if I kill you now, I will still live well. Why should I look for any evidence? Chiwu Zhongshuan's face turned purple and he was lifted up by Noah. His toes began to leave the ground. He wanted to say something, but because of suffocation, he could only squeeze out a painful sound. This made the 4 guards even more anxious. They roared to warn and bluff, which made Noah, who was already in a bad mood, even more impatient. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Noah pulled Chiwu Zhongshuan's tie with great force and threw him to the side. Chiwu Zhongshuan's body completely lost balance and fell to the side with Noah's action. With a bang, he hit the ground and screamed out in pain. What I like most is to use the same means to repay people who play tricks in front of me. Noah looked disdainfully at Chiwu Zhongshuan, who fell to the ground, and said in a condescending tone. Since you want to assassinate the Holy Son of Heaven, I will do the same to you. So, from now on, I will give you an hour to escape. After an hour, I will catch up with you. If you can escape from the Tokyo area, I will stop. If you can't. Noah's eyes flashed with a cold light that made Chiwu Zhongshuan's heart palpitate. Then your daydream of dominating the world will be crushed in my hands. After saying that, Noah turned around. Remember, you only have an hour. Chiwu Zhongshuan, who had always been unscrupulous, could not help but feel fear when he heard Noah's strong declaration and the cold aura around him. He screamed. Go! Take me away. The 4 guards immediately stepped forward and hurriedly helped Chiwu Zhongshuan up. They rushed into the elevator as if they were escaping. President Noah. At this time, the Holy Son of Heaven, who had been caught off guard and could not find a chance to interrupt, ran to Noah's side in a panic for the first time. What are you doing? Enough. Noah raised his hand and blocked the Holy Son of Heaven. His eyes looked through the glass window in front of him at the night view outside. Just leave everything to me, if you still trust me. The Holy Son of Heaven opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say anything and nodded with a worried face. The night was still going on, and it was destined to be quite long. Especially tonight, you're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.